Rainier from the island of Elda, so beloved by Inanna. The girl is destined to capture the hearts of noble and beautiful people, on whom the goddess's favor fell. The girl exudes an intoxicating aroma that is captivating. The woman also sees two men who love her, and also two men whom she loves, and the same two men will plunge her into eternal sleep, and she will do the same to them. There will always be two roads in front of a girl: wealth and poverty, good and evil, and also life and death. And each time the lady must choose her path and destiny. Now the main character stands on the mountain near her dead comrades. The girl starts laughing loudly, after which she realizes that the curse is haunting her again. When the lady was still a baby, someone approached her, and he claimed that he would tell her one prophecy. The woman spoke words about her future, but now the main character opens her eyes and thinks what a terrible dream this was. The girl also looks out of the cave and hears some kind of whistling. She understands that this is a signal for help from the people of the north, but in such a blizzard, it is unlikely that anyone will come to the rescue. At that moment, someone turns to the boy and says that even the sun hasn't risen yet, and he's already on his feet. The main character replies that it's all because of the annoying whistle. Her interlocutor replies that he doesn't hear anything, and that the guy probably has such clear hearing because he's young. The main character claims that it seems that one of the northerners is in trouble, and, judging by the fading whistle, they will soon fall into eternal sleep. The man claims that if this blizzard continues, they themselves will not survive, because they have no food. His interlocutor claims that this is an unbearable snow cyclone, but they said that if they dig deeper, they would certainly find sacred stones. The main character understands that the north is the territory of little-known tribes, nicknamed the Land of the Beast. For generations, northerners buried their ancestors in a cave on Mount Pekiam, and the sacred stone found in these burials, possessing divine power and calling upon water and wind, had great value on the continent, which is what attracted foreigners blinded by the thirst for profit. Although the northerners extremely cruelly punished those who disturbed the remains of their ancestors, and yet there were grave robbers who wanted to get into the treasured cave. And of course, these people wanted not only to get rich, but also to survive by any means necessary. Other people in their group say they are so hungry. But at this time, one man is looking at the main character. The girl still hears the whistle and thinks, is that person still sending signals? But it would be better if he gave up. At that very moment, the main character shudders because she hears the crunch of a branch. When she turns around, the man who was watching her in the cave is there. The man turns to the boy and asks what he is doing there. The main character replies that the cave has run out of brushwood, so she collects it. The lady begins to move a little further away, but her interlocutor offers his help, after which he grabs the girl. And when the main character screams for him to let her go, the man removes the lady's hood and claims that she is, after all, a girl. But these idiots didn't even suspect it, although the girl was right under their noses the whole time. At this time, the main character remembers the prophecy, after which she screams for this guy to let her go right now. But at the same moment, she sees the rest of the group. One of them asks if it's definitely a girl, to which the other replies that it's definitely a girl, because there's nothing underneath. Someone else asks if these idiots really knew nothing, and if they are blind. But the girl fooled everyone by dressing like a guy. The man grins and says, "Who knew that in such a place I would be lucky enough to hug a woman?" The main character grabs a stone from the floor and then throws it right into the man's eyes. He immediately moves away and then gets up. When he gets to his feet, the main character watches in shock as he screams and then stumbles. Then he falls. After shaking a little, he stops breathing. The rest of the group ask if he has fallen into eternal sleep, and the main character immediately gets up and starts running away. The girl understands that the man has fallen into eternal sleep, but then she runs up to the cliff, and he understands that there is nowhere else to run. One of the group screams out that the lady is such a beast, because they would have left her alive if she had behaved obediently. But the girl is so stubborn, and because of her, one of their group fell into eternal sleep. The man claims that there is no escape from them, after which the main character looks at the cliff. The girl recalls how the woman who uttered the prophecy granted her the blessing of the goddess. After all, she is destined to capture the hearts of noble and beautiful people. Now the main character, with tears in her eyes, asks for at least someone to save her. But one of the group members immediately attacks her. The girl tries to dodge, and when she does, the man runs past her, and tripping, falls onto a stone. The main character thinks it's ironic, and the men scream, "How is this possible, and what has this scoundrel done?" The girl just laughs at everything and screams that this is what they deserve. The men look menacingly at the lady, after which one of them also decides to attack. But before he can touch the girl, he also falls headfirst onto the stone. When they are all already lying lifeless on the mountain, the lady looks at all this, after which she grabs her head and screams. The girl understands that this is a terrible curse that will disappear with her immersion into eternal sleep. But at that very moment, the lady hears a whistle, after which she turns around and decides to go there. The lady thinks how annoying this sound is, and how someone falls into eternal sleep so easily, and the other is desperately fighting for his life. This sound seems to carry a plea for help, after which the lady gets up and decides to head towards him. The lady recalls how the prophecy said that if she did not accept the goddess's blessing, then her aroma will turn into stench, and her luck will leave her. There will also always be 2 roads in front of her, and each time she must choose her own path and destiny. Now the main character hits the guy lying in the snow in the face, trying to bring him to his senses. The lady claims that he will thus fall into eternal sleep. The girl realizes that she is seeing a resident of the north for the first time. But they said that the blood of animals flows through their veins, and they feed on human flesh. And in the end, northerners look the same as southerners. There is practically no difference between them, and they even have clothes. But at that moment, the lady notices something else, and he wonders how many days he spent sending out a signal for help, bleeding to death. But the amazing thing is, he's still alive. There was a dagger sticking out of his thigh, and if she pulled it out now, she wouldn't be able to stop the bleeding, and then the guy would definitely fall into eternal sleep. So first, she will bring him to his senses. When the main character spanks the guy again, he finally opens his eyes. The young man shudders, because he can't see anything because of the blindfold, and the main character says that he has finally woken up. The guy turns around, but when he puts his hand to the bandage, the girl tells him not to take it off. Her interlocutor asks who she is, and from what mountain tribe she is, and also asks why he is wearing a blindfold. The lady asks him to promise that he will not take it off, otherwise she will simply turn around and leave. The guy tells her to give him a reason why he can't take it off, and the main character replies that first, they need to clarify something. If she doesn't help him now, then today will be the last day of his life. No one knows how long this blizzard will last, and from the peculiarity of its whistle, one can tell it's from the salt mountains. But in this weather, such sounds can't be heard even from a league away, so even if he whistled for 100 days, it would all be in vain. Not to mention, his signal would hardly reach Salt Castle, and his fellow tribesmen will not be able to save him, to which the guy replies that he knows, and in order to survive, he did everything in his power. And isn't that why his interlocutor is there? The lady claims there's a cave nearby where she currently lives. There is medicine and firewood there. If they can get there, he might survive. The girl claims that she will not be able to reveal the location of the cave to a man from the north, and of course, he should not see the faces of the people who are there. If they find out she saved a northerner, they won't let her live. The guy asks if she mines sacred stones. The main character looks at him coldly, and then asks what difference it makes to him. Although she lives in a cave, her hands have never held these stones. She already has enough hunting and fighting for survival. When the guy silently looks at the lady, she cries out that he may not believe it, but she can swear to it by the supreme gods. Her interlocutor believes that it is true that she did not have to touch the sacred stones. The main character says that it seems that the northerners meet benefactors with accusations, and her interlocutor apologizes for such a greeting, and also claims that he will be in her great debt. The guy claims that his name is Kun. He is the son of Huatu and lives in the Salt Castle. He also asks who his interlocutor is, and the girl replies that he should not try to find out anything. The guy replies that it's fine, but then states that he would like to know why his interlocutor needs to save him. And wouldn't that put her life in danger? The main character is silent for a moment, and then screams that he is asking too many questions. And she does it just like that. Her interlocutor claims that he wants to trust this stranger, so he needs to know the reason behind his actions. The girl asks if he talks about the reason, and wonders if it is really that important to him. The main character remembers the people who were with her, and she claims that she doesn't think she would have helped a northerner before. Then, her interlocutor asks why the stranger is doing this now. In response, the girl remains silent for a while, and her interlocutor only tells the stranger not to cry. He apologizes for possibly saying something that upset his interlocutor, after which the guy claims that he will not ask any more questions, and he won't peek either, and will do whatever the stranger says. Since he has already taken an oath, he will call upon the sun god to witness his promise. So let his interlocutor not cry anymore. A little while later, they are already heading out together, and the main character tells the guy to throw away the axe because it is too heavy. The young man claims that Earther is a part of him. The main character wonders if the guy really named his axe that way. The girl also screams that it is already heavy, and doesn't the guy see that her legs are shaking, even though he is blindfolded? The lady also claims that in any case, he promised to do everything she said, And did he really deceive her? After which the young man still throws away the axe. After which the two move on. But the blizzard doesn't stop, and Kun is getting worse. Rainier notices that his breathing is becoming heavy and hopes that he will make it to the cave. But suddenly the guy asks if she is a girl. The main character curses in her mind and wonders what it is, after which she replies that everything is exactly like that. After which her interlocutor begins to get nervous, and the lady screams at him to stand still. The guy claims that this is how it is, and if he had known, he would not have hung on her. Then the main character asks if he himself would like to walk with a brisk gait. Kun also asks if it means that the girl lives in a cave with this garbage. The main character says that if he lets it slip that she is a girl, she will put him into eternal sleep on the spot, and her interlocutor wonders if no one knows about this. The lady replies that no one, and those who knew have already fallen into eternal sleep. Kun asks if she really took their lives. The girl screams, "What difference does it make? They achieved this themselves." Kun claims that he was not trying to blame her, so he asks her not to get angry. And the main character clenches her teeth and insists that they will be there soon, so let him get ready. A little while later, the main character says that they have arrived. There will be an entrance to the cave soon, so let him wait a little. The girl clears away the snow and claims that she hid meat and a medicinal tincture in this cave, after which she hands the guy some food and offers him something to eat. But the guy doesn't answer her, and the main character turns to him once again, after which the lady takes some of the tincture into her mouth, and she approaches his lips, trying to make him drink it. When the lady does this, she remembers his words about him, wondering why she saved him. The girl recalls the words that the curse of evil spirits lives within her. It didn't take the lady long to understand what her master had told her when she was little. She has an innate gift for spotting evil intentions. In addition, from an early age, she notices that she senses danger, and every time her pathetic attempts to defend herself ended with her offender being plunged into eternal sleep, whether it was a hunting dog that pounced on her or a crow that was pierced by a knitting needle because it wanted to peck her. As the lady grew older, her enemies no longer only became animals. The old slave stood first, and the man told the girl to come to him, and yet she blossomed so much. But when the man extended his hand to the girl and wanted to touch her, he immediately screamed. At that moment, several more people ran there and asked if they had heard the scream in the right place. But then they saw a shaking baby and a lifeless man next to her. That day, the lady was flogged and locked in a warehouse for injuring an old man who was harassing her. This was the life of a slave girl. Over time, the number of such men only increased, and the lady had witnessed horrific scenes on numerous occasions. The girl had no intention of harming anyone and simply wanted to protect herself. And then a picture of the past came into her memory. At the age of 6, she followed her master into the Golden Forest and heard this terrible prophecy. Now Kun wanted to know why she was saving him. It wasn't because she was kind or thought helping people was a good thing. The reason lies only in her selfishness. A little while later, the lady is already dragging the guy on her and notices that he has woken up. Kun apologizes for losing consciousness, but the lady claims that since he had woken up, he should walk properly because her shoulder was about to fall off. Once they enter the cave, no one should know that he is from the north. Grave robbers are ready to tear apart any northerner. At this time, the guy thanks the lady and claims that he will definitely repay the debt for saving her. The girl says that's a very bold statement, coming from someone who can barely stand on his own 2 feet. Kun promises he'll do it. And the main character says, "Oh, come on, does he really think she'll trust a northerner's promise? After all, in their salt castle, they eat their own wives, the ones who bore them children." An ancient legend says that a man-eating beast ate his own wife, the goddess of the Golden Forest, who bore him children. And this cannibal is the ancestor of the Salt Mountain tribe. The young man cries out, asking where she heard this nonsense, because his people don't do such things. He rarely promises anything, but if he does, he will definitely keep his word. After which the two enter the cave. The girl tells him to be quieter and try not to reveal himself. As the lady examines the cave, she realizes that it is still the same view. This is a cave from which several people disappear every day, and new bounty hunters take their place. At this time, someone asks the boy where he was, and the girl replies that she went to look for firewood. But at that very moment, one of them asks who is this person next to the boy. The lady replies that she picked it up near a cliff, and it looks interesting. Her interlocutor asks if the guy has really found a friend for himself. The girl replies that it is probably some idiot from among them who got lost. But at that very moment, the man runs up and hits the guy in the stomach. The main character, shocked, asks what he is doing, and her interlocutor claims that he knows who the northerners worship. After which he asks the guy to prove that he is not one of their people. Let him swear by the name of the sun, god Utu. But Kun only remains silent in response to this. The man claims that this guy is a northerner. Everyone else immediately asks in shock if this is really a northerner, and he is a cannibal. The main character asks them to wait, and asks if her uncle is going to put him into eternal sleep. But the man also hits the girl, and he cries out that, of course, he will plunge him into eternal sleep. Was the boy really going to save the life of this spawn? And he wants them all to fall into eternal sleep there. But the lady asks him to wait and listen to her. She tells her uncle that he doesn't know where they are, and she blindfolds him. He can't even see their faces, so she will take it upon herself to keep an eye on him. The main thing is that he doesn't run away, and if that happens, she'll simply catch up with him and plunge him into eternal sleep. After all, had he ever seen a victim slip away from her? And if he allowed it, she would share the fruit vodka she made in the fall. And she gives all the meat that she has left, but the man does not listen to her and takes out a dagger. The lady claims that she has saved their lives so many times. She always gave a signal in time when she noticed northerners, so let him show leniency at least once. She won't take her eyes off this guy and will even tie him up. But at that same moment, the man raises a dagger at the guy, and he tells him to plunge into eternal sleep. The main character immediately runs and stands between Kun and the dagger. A slashing sound is heard, after which the man lets the guy go, and the main character turns to her uncle, and he asks if he remembers how good she is at hunting. No one knows how long this blizzard will last, and perhaps they will all fall into an eternal sleep of hunger until the end of winter. But if he spares this boy's life, she'll take on the responsibility of providing everyone with food. The lady asks what he thinks, since it's a pretty good deal in exchange for a toy for the boy. The man replies that it is good, and let the guy start getting meat for leaving his friend alive, and tomorrow he can start. After which the man also orders that the northerner be tied to that stone, and that careful attention be paid to ensure that he does not escape. Although in this state, he is unlikely to be able to do this. A little while later, the main character approaches the guy and asks if he is okay. The girl asks if he's alive, and claims she paid dearly for his rescue. She also suggests he not even consider entering into eternal sleep. But then the lady realizes that she has endured so much today that now her whole body hurts, but her bones are intact, and the knife fell into the bag of water. But right now, there is something more important, because she barely saved this guy, and now he is unconscious. The lady turns to Kun and asks if he's okay, but when the girl wants to ask him if anything hurts, the guy interrupts her. The main character asks if he is feeling unwell, and her interlocutor asks why she is acting so stupidly. The lady thinks how he can say such a thing, and her interlocutor wants to say something, but clenches his teeth in pain. The girl understands that he is a complete hassle, but she thought that she would bring him, feed him, he would warm up and get back on his feet. Her whole plan collapsed because of his wound, because the dagger was very deep in his thigh. If you remove it carelessly, the guy might end up badly, but if you leave everything as is, an infection will begin. And there is only one way out. We will have to pull him out. When the girl does this, Kun cries out in pain, after which he falls face down on the floor. The main character asks if Kun can hear her, because she has to get this dagger. The guy just whines in pain, after which the lady tells Kun to remember, because he said that he would not remain in debt, and then let him hear her wish, because the lady wants him to survive, no matter how hard it may be. Let him do it and live to a ripe old age. Her interlocutor again asks why the lady is doing this, and the main character, looking away, thinks that she doesn't even know. At first, it was just repentance. After all, she left behind the bodies of those who suffered from her curse, and she found the exhausted Kun, whom she decided to save. The lady wanted to perform a worthy deed so that she could one day appear before the goddess of the underworld. She could say that there were not only those who were plunged into eternal sleep by her hand, but also those whose lives she managed to save. It was a strange desire, but at the same time, for no reason at all, she wanted him to survive. And the lady will try to do everything she can to achieve this. The lady turns to Kun again, and he tells her to pull out the dagger. Rainier says there is no healer or doctor there, so they will have to soak a cloth in alcohol and cover the wound with it. Even though it's winter now, it's going to hurt a lot, but Kun tells her to go ahead, because everything's fine. He's a tough guy from the north, so she shouldn't worry. The main character thinks that this fool should not make her laugh, because does he really think that by saying this, he will look cooler? The lady tells him to take a deep breath, then begins to pull out the dagger. A little while later, she already throws away the dagger blade. She claims that she is going to press on the wound now, so let him be patient for a little while. But at that very moment, the lady, in shock, asks why the bleeding still doesn't stop. The girl, with tears in her eyes, tells the guy not to think about dying there after everything, otherwise she herself will put him into eternal sleep. A little while later, they are already sitting near a lit fire. The lady realizes that the bleeding is stopped, but he still hasn't come to. The lady mentally asks the guy to survive and get through tonight. Tomorrow too, and he lived to be 150. May he hold on until today fades from his memory, and until he forgets such an ungrateful girl as she. At this time, the young man wonders why 150. The main character, shocked, asks when he woke up. The guy only asks why exactly so long ago. But the girl asks if it matters, because he would rather answer that it's fine, and that's what he'll do. Kun insists he'll try. Human life is fleeting, and he doesn't want to make promises he can't keep. So let her make another wish. The lady asks if he is a good hunter, and she understands that since he says he won't last that long, then she has no choice. The young man replies that it is good, and there is no predatory beast or bird on this mountain that he could not catch. The girl wonders what she was thinking, and believes that one life saved is enough to make up for the 5 lives she took. The lady claims she's quite good at hunting animals too, but that's not what she wants from him. She asks if he's ever put people into eternal sleep, to which he replies, yes. The guy asks if she wants to get rid of someone, and he asks why she does this. Renier asks if the reason is important, but her interlocutor says that someone else's grief will not turn back time for her, and in order to do such a thing to a person, a serious reason is needed. Rainier wonders who determines how serious she is, to which the guy replies that he does. The lady, with a smile on her face, realizes that she didn't think there were people in the world who can be so confident in their answer. She also understands that she and this guy exist in different worlds, and someday in the distant future, she will find him. When she repays the 5 lives she took by saving them, when she suffers for all those she hurt, the lady wonders if the guy can put her into eternal sleep without asking the reason, and in such a way that she does not feel pain, and also so that she would not be able to understand that she had already plunged into eternal sleep. Kun asks why. Renier replies that it's hard to fall into eternal sleep. Hitting myself on the head with a rock, if I'm going to finish, then that's it. Then she would not want to feel any pain, any fear, or the very end. Her interlocutor is silent for a moment, and then he turns around and says he won't do it. The protagonist, disappointed, insists that's what she thought. Then she asks what he's even capable of doing. The young man insists he can't take the life of his savior and let her wish for something else. But the girl cries out that he would have said back then that he would live to be 150. After which the lady realizes that there is something else. This request will be acceptable. The girl says that then this is her wish, and it won't be difficult for him to fulfill it. The main character thinks that maybe those 4 haven't yet fallen into eternal sleep. If she had simply submitted to the vile blessing of the goddess received in the temple of the Golden Forest, she would not have resisted human lust, but would have meekly endured it. Perhaps those vile southerners would not have suffered if she had not been sold into the Golden Forest, and she wouldn't have met that man there. Then she wouldn't have to hide from him, and she wouldn't have become a runaway slave. Maybe she would have found a good husband in the South, given birth to a boy and a girl, and would have had a quiet life. If only she had obeyed Inanna's blessing, she might have avoided sending these people into eternal sleep. She didn't have such a desire, but the girl thinks what would have happened if she hadn't resisted and run away. And she allowed them to use her body, but what about herself then? The girl thinks about what she really wants, and whether she needs to live or end everything, or maybe get punished. After which the girl turns to Kun, and leaning towards him, she tells him to take her, even by force. As soon as he recovers, he will do so. She may begin to resist, but no matter how much she fights back and screams that it hurts, he must see it through to the end. The guy, in shock, claims that he doesn't understand her. Kun clenches his fists and claims that he doesn't understand why she says such things. The lady replies that he doesn't need it. After all, her world is full of things that he cannot accept. If he doesn't want to, then he doesn't have to agree, because his salvation was simply her whim. And there is no need to talk about debt, because besides him, there are plenty of men who will do this with enviable zeal. Her interlocutor then turns to the lady and asserts that he will do what she asks, if that is her wish. Kun woke up a few days later. He recovered quickly, and on the first day, he couldn't swallow. And on the second day, he already started eating meat. The problem was that his appetite was too good. The main character, looking at him, wondered if the guy was really sick, but he was painfully quick to digest even such tough meat. Kun asks why the lady isn't eating, and the girl replies that she's already full, so he shouldn't worry. An uncle passing by claims that this stray dog ate all her dinner. There is no doubt that this is an ungrateful animal of the north, so the man tells the boy to be careful with it. Otherwise, this guy will gobble him up without even choking. The main character thinks that the uncle is good at taking her meat himself. At this time, Kun looks at the lady with concern, and he asks if it was really her meat. The girl replies that no, and she ate hers and brought him his share, since she usually does not need much food to be satisfied. Kun apologizes, claiming he was blindfolded and didn't notice he'd grabbed her piece. He hands the lady the meat and tells her to take it. Kun continued to recover, but there was another problem. Now the girl screams at this asshole and claims that her precious piece of lard has disappeared again. Her interlocutor excitedly asserts that he will pay and catch the boar and will also pay back 10 times or even 100 times more. A little while later, the girl screams that she doesn't need anything and why should he spy on him while he relieves himself? After all, she will turn away and simply hold on to the rope so that he doesn't run away. The lady wonders what difference it makes to him who takes him out, and every time he feels the urge, he has to ask the others to take him to relieve himself, and yet she pays them for it with precious lard, so why can they do it, and she can't? The guy replies that they are simply not married. The lady asks what the difference is, and her interlocutor replies that in their tribe, a boy and a girl live in different places until marriage. The guy blushed a little and claimed that Northerners simply honor family traditions. The main character screams, "What kind of nonsense is this since the time of Enki?" She doesn't understand why he's talking all this nonsense, and doesn't he remember who washed him while he was lying there unconscious? The main character says that it's easier to get more lard than to persuade him. But when she looks at the guy, she can't help but laugh. The main character claims that his nose turned red. It's just like a newborn puppy. The guy says how rude it is and claims he's not a puppy at all. A little while later, the cave inhabitants are having dinner. One of them says, "Yeah, that kid's quite the hunter too. He thought they'd starve to death that winter. But it's so good that they left the Northerner alive," after which he asks his brother what he thinks. His companion replies that an animal is just that, an animal. The meat the boy had prepared for them will soon be gone, and they'll choose the opportune moment and kill the savage. One of them says that the main thing is that there are no problems later, and his interlocutor claims that they can simply push him off the cliff while he is relieving himself. The other one replies that he agrees, and it seems the kid has become friends with this Northerner. So the man wonders if he will be furious if he finds out that they got rid of the idiot. Another cave dweller asks what the difference is. After all, let him be grateful that they allowed the savage to live at least a little. A little while later, the main character is dragging the loot and wondering why the hell she's sweating there for the sake of the stomachs of these grave robbers. This idiotic snowstorm has been going on for 2 weeks now, and there is no end in sight. They could have at least given her a break. Kun asks if the lady has arrived. The girl sits down on the floor and claims that she is tired. The guy welcomes her back and tells her she's done a good job. The main character, looking at his face, smiles, and understands that saving someone isn't easy. She also asks how he's feeling. Her interlocutor replies that he has recovered and can now go hunting, so he asks her to find his axe. The girl is shocked and wonders what kind of axe they are talking about because she just returned. The lady also says she found a hunter there, even though he's still barely able to stand. The guy claims his wounds are almost healed and his fever has gone. He'd told her he was excellent at hunting both game and birds, but he needed an axe to do it. The girl said that if he was being so concerned about her, he shouldn't have done it, because she was fine. But her interlocutor says that there is something wrong with him, and let the lady untie his eyes and let him go hunting. The girl screams that they will immediately plunge him into eternal sleep if they see him without the blindfold, so he cannot see their faces and the cave. The guy then asks if they should all be put into eternal sleep. The main character wonders if he's gone crazy, and Kun claims that they deserve it, because disturbing the peace of the departed is the gravest sin in the world, and there is no forgiveness for it. He can't leave the lady until he fulfills his promise. The young man claims he won't look at her face, but will simply hunt and return, and won't run away. The protagonist wonders if he's really asking her to believe this. If he doesn't return, they'll put her into eternal sleep and simply move on to another cave. The guy replies that he will definitely return and swears by the name of his ancestors. The lady wonders if he is talking about the damned cannibals, and what good is an oath in the name of the monster that killed the goddess. Kun says that since she doesn't trust him, he will leave it to her. The guy puts something in the lady's hand and asks if she will believe him now. The main character examines this object and asks what kind of rock fragment it is. Her interlocutor cries out that this isn't a shard, but a petrified piece of the heart of their tribe's ancestor. It's been passed down through generations in their family, and it's the most precious thing in the entire North. The main character wonders if it is possible that when someone from their tribe falls into eternal sleep, they turn into stone. Although looking at his head, which is no different from a cobblestone, it is possible to believe it. Persuading a guy is like talking to a rock. The girl claims that he swore by Utu that he would listen to her, so the guy should not raise this topic again. And it's better to let him skin his prey. Kun does just that. The main character, watching this, understands that he copes well even when blindfolded. Kun suddenly says he wanted to ask her something, and the girl thinks he's such a talkative person. The guy asks who she caught today. The lady invites him to touch it, and then he'll find out. Kun says it's a small boar, and asks what color its fur is. After which, he also asks how many pieces the lady caught. But the main character screams for him to count himself. After which, the guy becomes a little depressed, and the main character wonders why he doesn't shut up when she's around. Kun claims he still has a question. He wonders why people from the west and south come to foreign lands and mine sacred stones, even if they know that they could be put to eternal sleep at the hands of the northerners. The girl replies that this is because one such stone, the size of a fist, can change their lives. The priests of the Golden Forest will give a good price for it, and they can do nothing without these stones. They are used to light fires and summon rain, as well as lift heavy objects into the air. They are even used to lull people into eternal sleep by summoning a gusty wind. The guy asks if it's really just because of this, and the main character asks what he's talking about. Her interlocutor replies that fire can be lit with a stone, and if there's no rain, wells must be dug. Heavy loads can easily be moved using carts, and a person can be sent into eternal sleep with a blow of a sword or an axe. The young man also says that the lady can go and tell the priests of the Golden Forest about this, so that people do not die in vain for the sake of the useless powers of the stone. The main character even shudders, after which she screams that he's gone crazy. The girl asks why she should go there, since her life in the south was one big misery, and that's why she ran away. Kun wonders if she was a slave and lived in the Golden Forest. The girl screams at him to shut up, because in any case, even under the threat of falling into eternal sleep, she will not return there. The Golden Forest, the guardian of the forest, and especially the priests, they are all disgusting to her, and let these descendants of the Ilios choke on them. If the guy really wants to tell them something, then let him go himself. Kun claims he, too, finds the priests of the Golden Forest disgusting. The real thieves of the sacred stone lurk behind the grave robbers. Rainier says that the priests also hate the northerners. The girl also asks if he knows what their wish is, because they said that they want to eradicate all the dirty animals from the salt mountains. The boy cries out that they're encroaching on their lands, desecrating the graves of their ancestors, and their revenge is justified. These guys are probably extremely angry that they're interfering with their theft, but why on earth do they dare call them that? They don't consider themselves animals. And these inhabitants of the Golden Forest are animals, since they don't know the word honor. Kun truly doesn't know how these southerners are any better than them. The main character claims that he is right, and that she had previously imagined northerners differently. In the south, in the Golden Forest, there is a legend about their ancestors. They say that the northerners are the descendants of a cannibal who ate his own wife, and that they still have a wild disposition. After hearing all this, she had a wrong idea about their people, and she will no longer believe in such things, so she asks him to forgive her. Kun states that he is not going to deny that his ancestors were cannibals, nor that the people of the north used to live like wild animals, but that they are not much different now. Their people never forget their benefactors or their offenders, and they value honor above their own lives. The main character pats the guy on the shoulder and says she understands, and it's just old stories, after which she apologizes if she offended him. Her interlocutor claims that the lady doesn't have to apologize several times, because he won't be offended. The girl said that their ancestors were mentioned in the legends of the Golden Forest. The main character replies that there are only a few stories about cannibals, after which her interlocutor asks if she can tell him the story of the Golden Forest. The girl asks if he knows how long the story is. He's no longer young enough to be told stories, so he should go and ask his mother. But the young man claims his parents fell into eternal sleep. 4 days before the girl found him, they fell into eternal sleep right before his eyes. His mother only knew short stories, and there were only 3 of them, so he quickly got bored with them. And now he won't hear them anymore. If he had known in advance, he would have told her more often how interesting these stories were. The main character thinks that it is so annoying when feelings appear for someone. It is also a burden, a hindrance, or a pain. Kun asks if the girl will tell the story of the Golden Forest, the place she has been to, after which the main character claims that a long time ago, almost immediately after the great and terrible gods created the world, at the command of Enki, master of the fertile land and lord of the waters, a tree sprouted. 7 is the most beautiful and the most terrible number. It determines the transformation of this world. There are 7 gods in the world who determine fate, as well as 7 days given to people by these gods. Day from An, the father of all things and creator of the endless sky. Day from Enlil, king of gods and men, and lord of the air. Day from the creator Enki, the lord of fertile land and water. Day of the lunar Nana, patron of the night sky and lord of knowledge. Day from the solar Utu, lord of the all-seeing light and keeper of justice and truth. Day of the warrior Inanna, the star of the morning sunrise and the goddess of love and fertility. Day from the merciful midwife Ninhursag, 7 days and 7 nights, during which everything exists and comes to an end. These days are enough for everything that happened to dissipate and sink into oblivion, and what was created was gradually forgotten, so that all the feelings that connected you disappear. Speaking of the first day, in the beginning there was a tree. It sprouted from the earth at the command of the great Lord Enki. Neither birds, nor beasts, nor even insects could approach this sacred place. The sprouting shoot stretched upward, toward the bright sun. The sun god Utu saw the beautiful tree stretch its many branches toward him. He was delighted and pulled them towards him. Frightened, Enki grabbed hold of the roots and directed the flow of water under the tree, forcing it to send its roots deeper into the earth. The tree, in its greed, desired the sunlit sky and the living water that flowed within the fertile soil. So it began to grow taller than any other tree on earth and took root, deeper than any other plant. The sun god Utu called upon his son, Katar, the most powerful and courageous warrior in the sky. He had eagle-like vision and truly leonine strength, and the arrows he fired from his bow always hit their target. Utu gifted him with 3 pairs of eagle wings, a golden crown and sword, fiery arrows, and immortality, and ordered him to raise the tree to the very top of the sky. Enki, in turn, called upon his son, the black dragon, whose strength was unmatched either on earth or in water. The god gifted the black dragon with a silver crown, a trident that commanded enormous waves, and a chilling mist capable of enveloping everything with boundless wisdom. He commanded the tree to be lowered to the deepest waters. With their 6 wings spread, Katar and the black dragon engaged in a great battle. The battle between the warriors, both equally powerful, lasted a long time. None of them were willing to admit defeat. The Elios warriors, who resembled the Cathar, and the warriors who obeyed the black dragon, surrounded the tree with a clay barrier to prevent any evil creatures from encroaching on it. But at one point, Katar and the black dragon stopped fighting. They saw a beautiful naked maiden lying under a tree. On the second day, Katar thought that this beauty was the embodiment of a tree and carefully approached her. He knelt down to examine her face, because compared to him, she was too small and fragile. At that moment, the maiden met the gaze of Katar and the black dragon. Katar saw the sky in her eyes, and the black dragon, the sea. After taking them in, the beauty parted her scarlet lips, after which she inquired who they were. Katar claimed to be the son of Utu, a warrior of the sky, and also the bearer of 6 wings named Katar. Another interlocutor claimed that he was the son of Enki, a warrior of water, and also a black dragon of wisdom. The girl then asked what was about her and what her name was. Katar and the black dragon replied that her name was Armanu, which means tree. The girl said her name and, looking up, reached out to them. Katar and the black dragon, mesmerized, took her hands. Her palms were so soft and warm that for a moment they were reluctant to let go. The girl asked the two to stop fighting because she couldn't sleep because of the noise. But Katar claimed that he could not pass on this tree to the earth in his father's name. But the black dragon claimed that he could not hand over this tree to heaven. The girl argued that if none of them wanted to give him up, then they could leave him between heaven and earth. The 6-winged Katar and the black dragon of wisdom stopped their protracted battle and came to an agreement. They lifted the tree and placed it between heaven and earth. Elios warriors, like the Cathar, supported it in the air, and the black dragon sprinkled the tree with clean water. The place where Armanu stood was beautiful and fertile. The tree, which was fed by clean water and bright, warm sunlight, had a dense green crown and bore sweet fruits. Everything Arman touched gave off an enchanting aroma. The Cathar and the black dragon did not allow anything to disturb this sacred place. The girl thanked the two. Armanu was pleased with her possessions, which belonged neither to heaven nor earth, and in gratitude, she kissed the 2 guardians. Then something strange began to arise in the souls of Katar and the black dragon. Now the guy asks what she means. The girl smiles and realizes that she interrupted the story at the most interesting place, and he is about to go crazy. The main character points her finger at him, and the guy asks in shock what happened. Rainier asks if he understood what she meant when she said, "something strange." Her interlocutor replies that yes, and when the lady asks what it is, he replies that it is love. The main character screams at him not to tell her he knows about this, because in the north, they don't even see the bride before the wedding. The guy insists he knows everything. The girl asks if he'll share his thoughts then. The young man insists that love is when he's very interested in her and constantly thinks about her. And as soon as he imagines her, his mood improves, and he wants to try harder for her. The girl thinks she can't believe it because the guy looks so cute, and then she asks what else. Her interlocutor replies that he then dreams of hiding her behind his back so that no one would see, and if anyone decides to offend her, he intends to plunge him into eternal sleep. When he wants to take her hands and hug her tightly, kiss her, fall asleep together, and dream about the birth of their children. The main character silently looks at the guy and understands that he has such pure thoughts. But she hadn't expected such sincerity from this shy fellow. Perhaps everyone in the North has that way of speaking, and the lady thought he must have summoned all his courage to dare to say such a thing. But for some reason, she thinks he was talking about them. Rainier immediately understands that she needs to come to her senses, and then the girl says that this is how he imagines love. After which, she asks what the guy will do if only one in the couple experiences this feeling. The lady realizes she has several answers to this question. For example, to take possession of her body by force, as many boors have attempted, or to subjugate her by threat of violence, and ultimately, buy it for money. There are plenty of options when the good way doesn't work. But now, the guy claims that he will do everything possible to rekindle this feeling in her. The lady argues that love can't always be nurtured by effort alone, and ultimately, everything may be in vain. Kun says that if God allowed love to be born in only one heart, it would be impossible. Then in that case, he will pray with all his might that he will grant her this. Rainier realizes this answer doesn't satisfy her. A short time later, the protagonist opens her eyes in the middle of the night. When she looks at Kun, she sees him whispering something and wonders who he's praying to, but she can hear his measured whisper. When the lady closes her eyes, she thinks one last time about what he is asking for. The guy then places his hand on the lady's hand, and then he kisses her completely. On the third day, as the tree waited for both water and sun, and so Armando desired Katara and the Black Dragon. They, in turn, sought to obtain her. But the beautiful maiden merely bowed her head sadly. The girl told the pride of the world, the six-winged warrior, that he was too great to embrace, and his wings covered the sky, while she was but a feather against it. The lady also appealed to the wisdom of the water, and the owner of the beautiful scales. He is too big to embrace, and his tail covers the sea, and she is no bigger than his scale. Then Katar and the Black Dragon shrank, becoming equal to Armin. Looking into her eyes, they experienced feelings previously unknown to them. A little while later, Katar asked the lady to accept his love, because with him she would know joy, and he would delight her in the name of light. The Black Dragon also made this request of the lady, claiming that he would grant her wisdom and fill her life with entertainment. Then Armand thought for a moment and asked, if she loves them, what will she get in return? Katar asked what she wanted, and he would give her everything he had, and even more. The dragon said the same. The beauty thought for a long time, and finally said that they should give her 7 days to make a decision. Kun is confused and asks why the girl wasn't honest with them, and began using them to satisfy her greed. The lady replies that it's obvious even to a hedgehog that what Katar and the Black Dragon felt was not experienced by Armana. But, he says, it turns out that this is God's will, and it can't be condemned. They tried everything possible to kindle this feeling in her. Then the guy asks why exactly a week, and whether the girl really wanted to torment them with waiting. The lady understands that the boy is overly sympathetic to Katar and the Black Dragon. She also wonders if Kun would risk everything for feelings that are born and die in 7 days. She's not sure about herself. The girl says there are 7 days and 7 nights during which everything exists and comes to an end. This time is enough for the living to fall into eternal sleep, and for those nearing the end to survive. This period is enough to become close to someone you never knew, and to give your heart to someone you hated. A week is enough to fall in love and break up. But the guy at that very moment cries out that it's not enough, because for these feelings, 700 days, and even 70 years will not be enough. The main character asks what he is talking about, because how would he know? Her interlocutor asks what about the lady, and the main character tells him to believe that she knows that even 1 day is enough for old feelings to disappear, adding in her thoughts that, at least, she has gone through this. The boy claims he doesn't believe it. Rainier thinks that, judging by his hesitant denial, he himself doesn't understand how these feelings could fade. The girl realizes that she has known Kun for almost 2 weeks. On the 4th day, Armin thought for a long time, sitting on a tree, about what was between heaven and earth, but she still could not make a choice. When the week had passed, the Black Dragon transformed into white and black serpents, Evading Katar's gaze, the serpents descended upon the beautiful maiden. One of them asked the girl if she had made a decision, to which she replied that she did not have the wisdom to understand which of them loved her more. The snake asked if she desired wisdom that would reveal the truth to her. The girl replied that she did, to which one of the snakes replied that choosing one of the two meant leaving someone behind, and did she still want that? To which the lady replied that she did. The snakes approached her and began to whisper their teachings. One of them told the lady to test them and ask them for the gift of what they cherished most. Let them grant her wish, and then she would understand everything. Armanu, who had mastered the wisdom of the snakes, approached the Cathar. The girl addressed him and claimed that she desired his light, divine beauty, and immortality. Armanu wanted what the Cathar cherished most. The Cathar thought for a long time, then replied that he would bestow upon her light and divine beauty. He had received eternal life from his father, Utu. It was a gift for the Ilios, and he could not dispose of it as he wished. Armandu, having received the serpent's wisdom, repeated that she desired his light, divine beauty, and immortality. The Cathar thought of eternity in heaven without Armandu and mortal life beside her. Tormented by doubts, he replied that he would give her what the girl wanted, and therefore asked her to choose him. Then the girl approached the black dragon and claimed she desired the riches of the earth and water, as well as his wisdom. But there was something Armanu didn't know. Sharing one's life with another shortens one's days, but wisdom is boundless and remains unchanged, even when bestowed upon another. The black dragon smiled and replied that the wealth of water and earth did not belong to him, but if she desired wisdom, he would give it to her. If that was enough, then let her choose him. But Arman chose Katara over him and went to him. Katara kept his promise, giving Arman light and divine beauty, and also promising to grant him immortality when they shared a bed. They spent a long night in each other's arms, but even after that, Katara could not give up his immortality. Because that night, the sun god Utu appeared in Katar's dreams. He told his son that he would not allow him to dispose of his gifts. Once he is ready to give up his divine beauty, light, and immortality, he will never again be able to ascend to heaven. He will experience all the hardships and privations endured by the tribes of mud and ultimately fall into eternal sleep. The same fate will await his Ilios warriors. For the rest of the night, Katar called out to the sun god Utu, but he no longer answered. Feeling betrayed by her broken promise, Armanu went to the black dragon. The girl claimed that Katar had broken his word, so she chose him and wanted his gifts. The black dragon, inhaling the cold mist, laughed. He argued that choosing between the two meant leaving someone behind, and she had made her choice. But he would still show her proof of his love and share the wisdom he possessed and the truth he knew. Katar realized that Armanu had gone to the black dragon because of an unfulfilled contract, but she could not be brought back after she plunged into the black dragon's cold mist. Katar's heart felt like it was in bubbling lava. Then he quickly went to the tree, the true spirit Armand, and gave him his immortality, after which he shouted at the top of his voice that he had kept his promise. At that moment, the sun came out from behind the horizon and illuminated everything with a blinding light. Katar lost his wings and crashed to the ground. That same land, teeming with tribes made of filth, which he so despised and considered corrupt. His Ilios warriors followed him, and with them the tree that they supported between heaven and earth. Armand's beautiful domains were stained with the blood of Katar and his warriors. The beauty never remained with any of her rivals, hiding from everyone. Only the tracks of a large bird were visible on the damp ground. The boy wondered why it had done this. She who received love, light, eternal life, and even the wisdom of the dragon, so why couldn't she love either Katar or the black dragon? Kun claims he doesn't understand her, while the girl claims she understands Armand a little, but Katar's actions seem strange to her, since he should have surrendered in time. The young man wonders what is surprising about it, because in his opinion, he acted correctly. The lady claims that he even abandoned his father, lost his honor, and parted with immortality just because of a woman, and this is so stupid. Kun says that's not true, and the lady claims that she has a feeling he would act like Katar. Her interlocutor replies that everything is exactly like that, and he will do everything possible to cultivate love in her. The lady asks if Kun remembers saying that if God allowed love to appear in one heart, he would desperately pray that he would do the same with the second. But what if Utu refuses? And will he give in or forget his God? Seriously, he doesn't know for sure whether Utu hears his prayers or not. Even if he hears, it doesn't mean he loves him, and even if he does, it's not always a blessing. The guy tells the girl not to blaspheme, as she's defiling the light of the god Utu, whom he worships. The main character replies that, of course, no. And how could she? a weak and pathetic dirty little human, dare to insult the god who determines the destinies of others. After which she swears by the great goddess, but at the same moment the guy closes the lady's mouth and claims that she always swears by her name when she lies. The girl at the same moment asserts that she does what she wants. And yet, the very name itself makes her sick. Some are lucky enough to be born a capricious and haughty goddess, who rules despotically but lives in luxury. And someone was born an orphan slave, who stepped in shit instead of luck, and now vegetates in poverty without having done anything wrong. The guy asks why the lady says that, and the girl replies that it's none of his business. Therefore, whenever she wants to lie, she swears by this disgusting name and will continue to do the same. And the next time he thinks she's lying again, he might not listen. This only makes Kun laugh. He then claims that he has worshipped Utu since childhood and is destined to become a priest of their tribe. But this is the first time he has seen a person who so vilely reviles the deity. The protagonist, shocked, asks if he really must become a priest. He replies that he will become one after the succession rite on the vernal equinox, which will take place in the Utu temple on Salt Mountain. Rainier understands that she's almost a priest there with her, and she's slinging mud at the god. Now she understands his answers and actions, and that's why it's so important for him to keep his promise, if he's sworn to Utu. The main character says he's a good guy himself, because everything's clear with her. It's her life that allows her to say anything, but he's a future priest, so he might find it amusing that she's slandering the deity. The young man replies that she is right, and he is not sure that he can become a priest, because he will have to do many things, and now he is not sure of anything. The main character thinks he could have become an excellent hunter or blacksmith, and she simply can't believe he's the future priest of Utu. The boy insists that he thinks the lady should stop lying, calling the gods to witness, because when the time comes to promise something important, what will she swear by? The girl replies that, of course, it's her name, and her interlocutor asks why, to which she replies that it's because that's all she has left. Kun says that, in that case, let her do it in his name. If all she has is a name, then let her take it. And when the time comes to make a promise, let the lady swear by his name, and until his life ends, he will be the guarantor of her oath. It hurts him to hear the lady's words, and he would like to do something for her, but he does not know what or how. So let the girl swear by his name. If he owes her a catch, he'll catch 4 times as much. When he demands her return, he'll get 7 times as much. And if she swears by his life, he'll give it to her. The main character sheepishly claims that she barely managed to save the guy, and he is already throwing his life away on trifles. Kun insists that his life now belongs to her, but the girl replies that she already told him how to repay the debt, and he agreed to it. Once he keeps his word, she will no longer need anything from him. And he did promise, so the lady cries out, wondering if he doesn't remember. The young man replies that he does remember and will do as she wishes. On the 5th day, Qatar wandered desperately through the desert in search of Arman. Bitter tears poured from his eyes. After long wanderings, he returned to the tree that had grown into an entire forest. But Armand wasn't there. The 2 snakes guarding the tree wept when they saw Qatar. One of them turned to the great warrior, the bearer of 6 wings, his friend and brother. And another snake told the guy to forget the girl and live the rest of his life happily, because she would never come back. The Cathar fell to his knees and begged the black dragon to tell him where his Armianu had disappeared to. The snake replied that after she escaped him and left the sacred abode, she was abducted by a vicious monster. She shared his bed and bore him children. Therefore, let the guy not follow her and stay in this forest. The black dragon spoke of how much he missed the times when they fought as worthy opponents, friends and brothers. The boy turned to the black dragon, his only enemy and only friend, and then asked for the location of his Armin. The black dragon replied that the boy would find her in a cave in the Baekyeom Mountains, where cannibals who devoured girls lived. The lady had borne him a child, and both his daughter and his son resembled him. At this time, the guy turns to the lady and says that if she were Armand, what kind of man would she like to marry? The main character understands that there is a desire in his voice and a wish hidden in his question. The lady feels how Kun is getting closer step by step every day, and it hurts to realize this. The girl wonders how long she can hold him off, then answers that she can't for anyone, because men disgust her. Even their light touch feels like spiders crawling on her skin. Kun asks why, and the lady replies that it is a long story and that he should not ask. The guy asks how this is possible, and why she has so many things she can't even ask about, but he always answers all her questions. And every time he is sincere with her, no matter how awkward it may be for him. The girl replies that there are many reasons why people prefer to remain silent, and would it really make him feel better if he knew them all? The young man replies that it is not that, and that it is just that every time he accidentally finds out something, his chest tightens so much that he begins to choke. The guy also tells her to wait, and if so, then his touch is also unpleasant to her. The protagonist realizes that it seems too late to restrain him, and she is already losing confidence in herself. The lady says that what he just did is not so bad. And then her interlocutor asks what if he touches her lips, after which the main character just remains silent. And her interlocutor turns away and suggests that she pretend that she didn't hear anything. The lady understands that Kun's feelings are overwhelming, spilling over and affecting her. There's a certain point when one must step back and draw a line, and he's approaching. On the 6th day, Utu appeared to Kataru in a dream. The man told his son to return the 2 gifts he had foolishly given away, to return what was his, and to wipe the woman and her offspring from the face of the earth. Let him regain his light and eternal life, and then he could ascend to heaven again. But Katar wanted to be with her, not end her life. Soon the boy set out on a long journey to the Baekyeom Mountains. Finding a cave there wasn't easy. When he succeeded, it was already too late, because the cannibal ate Armana, who had given birth to his children. The monster swallowed even her bones, leaving no trace of the woman. The enraged Katar pointed his longbow at the cannibal and fired. The enemy fell to the ground, struck by 7 arrows. The Katari shed many tears as he sat beside him. After he returned to the cave, he found 4 children of Arman, 2 twins of graceful beauty, a boy and a girl, like his reflection, and 2 other twins, covered with a robe of feathers. These were the children of a hostile tribe, the filthy offspring of the cannibal's seed. Armanu was devoured by the monster, and nothing remained of her, so the Cathar had to take the lives of his enemy's children to return the gifts to Utu, and he aimed his arrows at them. The wounded twins fled, bleeding. They headed for the highest salt mountains, part of the Baekyeom mountain range, and hid there. By losing these children, Katar lost the chance to ascend to heaven, losing the light, eternal life, and even Armana. Katar and his Ilios warriors began to weep bitterly. They cried many tears, which soon began to freeze and cover the entire mountain. After this, Kun says the cannibal isn't dead, and the lady realizes the young man has completely lost heart, and it's only natural, after hearing so much about his ancestors' inexcusable crime. The girl then asks what happened to the cannibal. The boy replies that, all wounded, he found his children and went to Salt Mountain. 12 mountain tribes, including his fellow tribesmen, made him their chief. The main character asks if this is really true, and if the twins really lived with the father who ate their mother, and the northerners too. How could they forget that he ate their people? Did they really accept this and make him their leader? It would have been better if they had joined forces and driven him out. The boy replied that he agreed, but he thought the northerners back then lacked both the intelligence and the strength to do so. They were just like animals, unable to weave, sew clothes, or even make fire. But they weren't animals, after all. They probably just lacked the knowledge. But his family is the Salt Mountain tribe, and they are indeed descendants of the cannibal. The boy was never proud of his ancestors' history. Long ago, at the dawn of time, the northerners feared the cannibal above all else. Following a prophecy that if he swallowed 1,000 people, he would become a man and gain wisdom, the monster devoured the people of the north at every opportunity. Then, the tribes began sacrificing girls, with whom the cannibal first sated his lust until he grew tired, and then ate them. But after Arman fell into eternal sleep, he no longer needed sacrifices and gained great wisdom, becoming a leader. The girl says, of course, he probably became much smarter after he devoured the goddess. And yet, how could the northerners have made him their leader when he was eating their people? The boy replies that it's because he passed on to them a wealth of knowledge and customs, rules that must be observed between tribes, neighbors, and families. He taught them how to count, measure length and weight, weave, make, and wear clothing. He also imparted knowledge of how to bake bricks and cut stone from rocks to build houses and temples. He explained how to dig water channels, how to salt and preserve meat, and how to make sacrifices to the great gods. He built a temple in honor of Utu at the very top of Salt Mountain and made it possible to worship Enlil, the summoner of snowstorms. The main character thinks she may have overdone it when she spoke so rudely of Kun's ancestor. So now the lady says he probably really did become a benefactor to the northerners, who had neither clothing nor shelter. The guy replies that of course, and his family are the direct descendants of the wise cannibal. They make up the main tribe of the Salt Mountain, which has received recognition from the other tribes. The main character realizes that Kun is just like a boy, after which she strokes his head, which surprises him. The girl asks if he really doesn't like it. In response, her interlocutor replies that everything is not so, and that no one has stroked his head since he was 6 years old, and it is a little unusual, but if it is her, then everything is fine. Rainier thinks it's strange. He's supposed to have coarse, rough hair, so why is it so soft to the touch? At the same moment, the lady notices something else and wonders if Kun is moving his ears. The girl is surprised by this, and the guy suggests that she be quieter, otherwise everyone will hear. The main character says how unusual and very cute it is, because it's just like a puppy's, after which she asks him to wiggle his ears again. Kun insists he doesn't want to, and suggests not comparing him to an animal. Rainier apologizes and insists it's just really sweet. The girl also asks if he's offended. When the guy replies that everything is fine, the lady asks if she can touch his ears again, and if he's against it, he should say so directly. Kun claims that he hasn't shown this to anyone, not even his mother, but if she asks, he will show it, because it's not difficult for him. After which he lifts the bandage from his ears a little, and the main character, touching them, examines them carefully. The lady looks at his flushed neck, his weakly moving ears, and his breaking voice. She doesn't want to admit it, but it turns out the high wall she's erected between them is crumbling before her eyes. A short time later, the main character hits her head on the floor. The uncle cries out that this wasn't what they agreed on, as the guy promised to bring her meat every day. But maybe they should put his little animal into eternal sleep too. The girl asks if they can't see the snowstorm there, and that in such weather they can't catch a ferret or a hare. Let them be patient for a few days, and she'll bring them some meat, but the uncle immediately kicks her and yells that it's the boy's problem, since he's already been forgiven too much. Everyone else starts beating the girl, but she endures it. The main character realizes she needs to endure it for a few more days. But at that very moment, one of the cave dwellers cries out, asking what it is. When the main character looks up, she sees Kun protecting her. The lady immediately screams at him to get out of there, because how could the guy really have decided to take his own life? The main character screams at him to stay out of it and not interfere. But the guy replies that everything is fine, because it really doesn't hurt, so she shouldn't cry. A little while later, one of the cave dwellers asks another if he noticed this too. When he was beating the guy, he felt like he was kicking a rock, and it was just disgusting. Another resident claims he doesn't like this, and needs to deal with him quickly. There's no time to waste, because if the kid lets him go, it'll be the end of them all. Next time the kid goes hunting, they'll deal with this brat. On the 7th day, returning to the forest, Qatar embraced his children and waited. He believed that as long as the tree lived, Armandu would be able to regain life and return, for she was connected to it. Qatar hoped to grant her immortality once again, and dreamed of living with her forever. One day, his son brought a torch, and told his father he would burn the tree. His late mother would never be with them again, and before he grew old and ill, they should share immortality between them. And after that, they will find these vile descendants of the cannibal, and plunge them into eternal sleep. Thus, they will regain the divine light and ascend to heaven. His son's words angered Qatar. The man insisted that eternal life belonged entirely to Armand, and he would keep his word to her. The boy's mother and the tree are connected, and as long as it holds immortality, she will one day be able to return. Qatar was troubled by his son's intense desire for eternal life. Fearing the boy would burn the tree, he asked the boy to promise to protect it. Let him protect him until his return to Arman from all enemies who would seek immortality, and let him wait until the day when the descendants of the cannibal and Arman disappear from the face of the earth. That moment when the divine light returns to them. The boy told his father that everything would be done, and he would protect the tree and restore immortality after the ogre's offspring were killed, and then ascend to heaven. The Qatari, hearing this, added another condition to the oath. He claimed that he would connect his body and soul with this tree, and from now on, the boy would become its guardian and protect it. If it were to fall into eternal slumber before the ogre's spawn rotted, or before its children received the divine light, then no one would be able to attain immortality. At that moment, the son's face twisted. He wanted to avoid the oath and begged his father to do so, but his father was adamant. The Cathar accepted his son's blood as proof of the oath and blessed it. Only the owner of this blood and his heirs would be able to utilize its full abilities. The son, who later became known as Altir, or guardian of the forest, he grew up with his sister and left offspring, who in turn became priests of the Golden Forest. The Cathar, already tired of waiting, looked at the son, which was his father, and said his final prayer. He desired neither ascension to heaven nor divine light. He wanted to be reborn someday and meet her again, and to spend their lives together. After this prayer, Qatar left the forest and never returned. Khan asks if this is the end of the story. The girl replies yes, and the boy wonders if that's really it, since the six-winged Qatar never met Arman. Khan adds that this is just a terrible legend, and the girl replies that any love has a terrible end. Her interlocutor asks why she always says that, since she hasn't been through it. Renier asks why he thinks so. Her interlocutor is silent for a moment, and then lies down completely. The protagonist asks if Kun has fallen asleep, and then suggests that he stop pretending. The girl also tells the boy that the situation in the cave is getting tense. Kun replies that he knows. The main character realizes that, of course, he noticed, since the boy really does have good hunting ears. The uncle insists that he cannot stay there any longer, and asks if he understands what the boy is agreeing to. The protagonist realizes it's time to say goodbye, and claims that when she was 7 years old, she visited Inanna's temple. There, she received her blessing. The girl realizes that this story can be compared to the tales of the Golden Forest. It's the story of a 7-year-old girl visiting Inanna's temple for the first time and the terrible gift she received. Rainier claims she resisted her gift as best she could, but nothing worked. A blessing is like a curse, and it's impossible to refuse. The lady doesn't like men, and she doesn't want to marry. After all, her dream is to hide from people and gods, and one day fall into eternal sleep. Dreaming of a stone falling on her head, she doesn't want anyone to remember her, and she doesn't like being touched. And most of all, she doesn't want to involve others in Inanna's curse. But still, Kun wasn't repulsive to her. She liked the way he held her hand and touched her. The guy then extends his hand to the lady's lips, but when the main character addresses him, the young man immediately pulls away and asks if she felt uncomfortable. But he's just really curious about her face. Rainier claims she asked him not to be interested in her. Kun claims he's not very good at it, but he'll be less intrusive in the future. Rainier asks if he really wants to know what she looks like, and if he thinks she's pretty. The guy nods in response. The girl, smiling, insists she's an ugly runaway slave. She has a dark face and a flat nose, small eyes, and her entire body is covered in bruises from constant beatings. She's small and unattractive. But the guy immediately puts his hand on the lady's face and, stroking it, claims that the girl is beautiful. Rainier understands that Kun doesn't even know her name or age, hasn't seen her face, and knows nothing about her. So how can he feel this way about her? Perhaps it was her fault, and this relationship would end when they broke up. She shouldn't have let these feelings fester. Her mistake was pretending everything was fine, and that it would have been better if he had been the bad guy. 7 days and 7 nights, during which everything exists and comes to an end. This time is sufficient for the living to fall into eternal sleep, and for the dying to survive. This period is also enough to become close to someone you didn't know and give your heart to someone you hated. A week is enough to fall in love and break up. It's been 2 weeks since their meeting. Not much, but not a long time either. Now the main character claims that Kun did ask why she saved him, after which she approaches him and kisses him. The lady claims that that morning, on the cliff near this cave, 4 vile and lustful people fell into eternal sleep. This was the price of his salvation. After which, the protagonist rises and puts out the fire. Then the lady approaches the guy and realizes she wants to see his eyes, his thick eyebrows and long eyelashes. At first, she thought they didn't quite suit his rough face, but now she's wondering what color Kun's eyes are, and she's wondering why she wants to see them now. The girl claims that the price for saving him was great, so it was time to fulfill the promise. As soon as the guy fulfills his promise, he strokes the lady's hair and apologizes. The girl simply turns to Kun and insists that he did say he had business at home. The guy replies that he does, and the lady insists that as soon as the snowstorm ends, he should return home. And let him forget the way there, not remember it or anything that happened there. He has nothing to thank her for, because she didn't save him, because she liked him, or because she was kind. It was just her whim, and now he's repaid his debt, so she thinks they're even, but the guy claims he hasn't repaid her enough yet. However, at that very moment, the main character closes her eyes and says that she wishes the blizzard would end. A short time later, the girl wakes up to his whisper. A young man calls upon Utu, the keeper of light and justice, for the sake of the most beautiful and courageous woman. Let there be a man she will love, and let him be the one who loves her. And may he be saved by her, and she by him. This was an unusual prayer. Not a solemn speech at all, but a blessing from Kuna. In a place where even a sacrifice was impossible, he, not a priest, but with good intentions, desperately whispered words. He claimed that she was a strong and wise warrior, and therefore, given 2 paths, she would choose the path of light. She will overcome all hardships and find her happiness. So, in the name of the great sun god, let it be as he says. The more the boy spoke, the more he seemed to gain the strength to resist Inanna. He believed his words would come true. It was his sincere wish for good, with pure intentions. Now the girl is trying to make him stop, because whether he is a priest or not, and whether this is a genuine blessing or not, it doesn't matter anymore. The lady understands that she will likely fail to choose the path of light, and perhaps she will never find happiness. Perhaps she will never find her beloved, and will fall into eternal sleep in this cave. But from now on, thanks to his words, she will believe that the path she's on will lead her to happiness, and someday, she hopes, it will. That night, 2 weeks later, the snowstorm stopped. The next morning, the main character is combing the guy's hair, and he asks what she's doing. She suggests he sit quietly, as he hasn't been home in a while, and how could he possibly be showing up looking like that? After which, the girl claims that she is finished, and he looks neater. The lady also states that the snowstorm is over, and today is a good day, after which she asks if he is ready to return home. The boy replies yes, and the two of them exit the cave. The main character realizes that Kun was constantly limping in the cave, but now he walks confidently, and that this is how he deceived the people in the cave. His polished actions and ability to quickly assess the situation demonstrate that his being an excellent hunter wasn't just bragging. The girl realizes they've already arrived. Then she asks Kun to stand there and start counting. Let him count slowly to 77, and then remove the blindfold. But the guy at that very moment screams for her to wait and listen to him. Kun insists he needs to tell her something. At the same time, the protagonist clenches her teeth and thinks it would be better if he kept quiet, since there's no point in saying anything. The girl immediately screams for him to let go and pulls his hand away. Rainier understands that she won't listen to anything he says and will leave him there, forgetting about him. The lady tells the boy not to interrupt her and to count slowly to 77, then remove the blindfold. He swore on Utu's behalf that he wouldn't remove it until she gave him permission, so let him count honestly. The protagonist knows he really wants to see her, but he won't betray the oath he made in the name of the god. Kun, meanwhile, only asks her to take her time. The protagonist understands that he has blessed her, but the boy destined to become a priest of Utu. He'd hardly want to incur the god's curse for the sake of an unknown woman. The girl says that after he finishes counting, he should call the people. The snow has stopped, the sky is clear, so his whistle will surely be heard for 4 leagues. If no one comes to him, let him find his own way home. He's healthy and can get there on his own, but let the boy not look for her or follow her. But at that very moment, the young man cries out, "Is she really going to return to the cave? And why does she need to go there?" The lady wonders where else to go, because does he really think that a runaway slave from the south will be able to settle down among the northerners? Kun cries out that he doesn't mean that, and he would like to. The guy also claims that he can't talk about it now, but he has something to say. However, the main character says that if it is impossible, then let him remain silent. The young man cries out her name because he still doesn't know it, but the girl asks why he needs to know it. He must forget her, and it will be much easier if he doesn't know her name, age, or face. The boy then reaches for the bandage, wanting to remove it, but at that very moment, he stops. The main character realizes that she knows he wants to pick her up and is desperate to see her. But the one destined to become a priest cannot break the oath sworn in the name of the god, because to him, it means more than anything else. But she's not like Armand, who forces those who love her to give up the most precious thing in their lives. What if her curse touches him, and she can't allow that to happen? They've responded kindly to each other, and that's enough. But at that very moment, the guy grabs the lady and screams at her not to leave, and not to return to that cave. Kun insists she doesn't have to go. He feels bad for her being there, so he asks her not to return to that cave. However, when the guy approaches the lady, she immediately punches him in the stomach and screams, "Who is he to tell her what to do? Does he really think she likes all this? That she left her home and came there? To settle with the scum in a cave with sacred stones. She faces eternal sleep if she leaves Mount Bakium. She has a slave brand with a curse on her chest, and she lives like garbage in this cave, because the curse she received in the Golden Forest has no power only in the north, because the north is a cursed land of beasts, a dark land where the sacred spells of the Ilios have no effect. Then the boy says that she can live among the northerners, not in a cave. But the lady cries out for him to stop talking nonsense. Does he really think a foreigner can live among the northerners? She'll be in a defenseless place where there are no laws. His tribesmen will plunge her into eternal sleep before she meets her end from the cursed brand. But the boy cries out that this is not true, and she will be able to live among them as long as she wants. He did say that they were the same people as Southerners, and they also cried when they were sad, and laughed when they were happy. They also greeted loved ones in the names of their fathers, mothers, and brothers, got married, had children, and lived like them. As soon as he finishes one thing, he needs to tell her something important. He can't do it yet, but he definitely will. The main character suggests that he speak now, because nothing will change whether he says it later or now. The guy claims that as soon as he finishes something, he will return for her, His house is safer than this cave, and he will protect the lady from birds of prey and wild animals, from the hands of those who wish to harm her, and from the hands of the gods too. The protagonist thinks about a place where she could live, about something that would protect her, and about the man who would share her curse. This is what she so desired. So why is her soul now so torn? The girl asks if he would really do this, if it was Inanna or Utu. But when the guy wants to answer, the lady screams that it's not necessary, and that he shouldn't answer. She's not like Armand, so he shouldn't dare answer. The lady also tells him what an idiot he is, and wonders why he decided to bring this up now. She hasn't even had time to consider whether he even knows what it's like to bear her burden, or whether he's ever thought about it. The guy claims that all this time, his thoughts were occupied only with her, so how much more does he need to think for the lady to believe him? The girl cries out that she doesn't know, and let him believe her for a week, or even 7. Kun insists that he understands her, and let the lady wait for him, and as soon as he finishes the job, he'll come for her right away. He just needs to do one thing, and he'll think about her, and definitely come back. The guy wonders if this will suit the lady, and if she'll wait for him. The main character realizes that she should refuse and push him away, but then she just nods, and realizes that she doesn't want to refuse him. After which, the guy thanks the lady, and puts his most valuable thing in her hand. The main character, looking at this, asks why he's giving it to her. The boy swears on his ancestor's heart that he won't break his word. This will guarantee his return. Northerners don't forget their benefactors, and he will repay them in kind, so he asks her to wait for him. The protagonist asks if he's talking about the benefactor, and realizes something is wrong. The lady claims he paid her back last night, but the guy tells her to forget about what happened yesterday. The guy insists he'll tell it like it is, and he doesn't like what happened yesterday. It was dishonest, shameful, and he doesn't want to think about it, so he'll repay her in a different way. The main character thinks that's how it is, and it's not because he likes her, but simply out of a sense of duty, after which the girl immediately pushes him and screams that she told him to forget everything, like it was a bad dream. The girl thinks she tried not to hope, but deep down, she was eagerly awaiting. She was waiting for him to confess something special to her. Now the main character just screams at him to go away, because she doesn't want to see him again. They won't see each other again, so he shouldn't even think about looking for her. While the guy screams at her not to leave, and to at least tell him her name, the girl thinks that for just a moment, she imagined him coming back for her and her becoming his wife. But as she runs away, the lady wonders what she was hoping for. He'd never even confessed his love to her, so what was she expecting? A little while later, the main character returns to the cave and throws something at her neighbors. The girl claims that this idiot fooled her and ran away, and this is after everything she did for him. The lady claims she had to catch up with him and put him into eternal sleep, as they had agreed. Let them look in the bag, because that's where his ears and nose are. And if they don't believe her, she can show them where his body lies. The girl realizes that these body parts actually belong to those dead people on the cliff. She doesn't think any of those scum will go check. Meanwhile, one of them asks if the boy really put the northerner into eternal sleep for running away. Someone else insists that they just have to watch, since they've been talking like brothers for over 2 weeks. And then the guy tracked him down and put him into eternal sleep. That's such cold-bloodedness. A little while later, the protagonist lies there and realizes how strange this is, considering she's already in unbearable pain. She wonders why she's always thinking about him when she closes her eyes. And she misses him so much. The lady remembers asking the guy why the castle is called Salt Castle and whether it sounds nice. Kun replied that it's because it's on a salt mountain. And does a castle really have to have an impressive name? The girl asks why she shouldn't answer. If possible, she could come up with something better. Since it's white and shimmering, it could be a snow castle, or, for example, a milky one, since it's not made of salt. Her interlocutor claims that there is a wonderful room made of rock salt, and that his mother lived in it. Rainier asked if such things really existed, and if he'd tried licking the walls of this room. Kun replied that he hadn't done that, but if she was so interested, he could check. The girl said he should definitely find out, because it's very convenient if the wall is made of salt, and you can lick it when you eat meat. The young man insisted that he'd try it sometime later, and be sure to tell her. Now the girl thinks she's wondering if he'll actually do it, but she understands that this stubborn idiot would lick the wall, the floor, and the ceiling to keep his promise. The girl also recalls screaming at him to stop embarrassing her, as it was completely unnecessary. However, her interlocutor told her to sit still, because when you come back from the cold, you need to stretch your legs properly, otherwise they'll hurt. If the lady won't let you go hunting with her, then at least let her take care of you. The main character was silent for a moment, then screamed for him to stop, as it tickled her. Now the girl only laughs in private. A little while later, one of the cave dwellers says, "It's good the weather has cleared up, as finding prey without the boy is quite difficult." He also asks how the boy is feeling. His interlocutor replies that he is still lying alone and has not eaten or drunk for several days. The man claims he's obviously shocked by what happened, but what a fool he is! It was obvious the northerner would deceive him, and he believed this filthy beast. At this time, the main character staggers out of the cave, and when she finds herself on the street, the cave dweller asks another if he has seen his face, because the young man has become completely emaciated. But the uncle tells the boy not to touch him, because the young man is unpredictable now, so it's better not to bother him, and this guy scares him. At this time, the main character goes to the cliff, and, looking at the mountains, realizes that behind that mountain range, there is a salt castle. Kun lives somewhere out there, and the lady wonders if he'll come if she waits for him there, even though she herself told him not to come back. The lady wonders how he'll find her, or what to do if Kun shows up there, but what if she can never get him out of her mind? At that moment, the girl sees an axe in front of her, and realizes that it is Earther. The girl is already imagining how she'll return the axe to the boy, and how he'll thank her for finding it. The boy will likely say he'll never forget it, and ask how she can repay him. Now, the main character laughs bitterly, and wonders what she's doing, because she needs to forget about the guy, and not think about him, as if nothing ever happened. A little while later, the girl wakes up in the middle of the night, and wonders what happened, because she feels a chill down her spine. The lady realizes that there is such an oppressive silence there, and she has a bad feeling, so she needs to leave the cave. When the girl does this, she sees a flock of birds flying in the sky, but she wonders what kind of birds they are, because they are approaching so quickly, and whether they are eagles. But the main character wonders if they really fly at night, and especially in a flock, since eagles usually fly alone. The lady also notices a celestial chariot there, and wonders if it could be Anmar. She'd heard of them, after all, the eagles from the north, 6 or 7 of them carrying the celestial chariot of Anmar. They say these birds are extremely capricious and dangerous, and also difficult to tame. But they're definitely heading toward the cave, and the girl wonders if it's possible that Kun has returned for her. But the girl wonders again why she's so worried. The guy gets out of the cart, and one of the cave dwellers comes out and asks what all the noise is about. He asks where the little brat went, since he was supposed to be guarding the entrance. But at that very moment, the man is surprised. Seeing Kun standing before him, the guy simply rips his head off. The main character, watching this, thinks that this can't be happening, and wonders if it really is Kun. The other cave dwellers ask what happened, because they heard a loud sound, but before they can scream that it is a northerner, the guy cuts them down. The main character wonders why he doesn't check if she is among them, and just puts everyone into eternal sleep. How can he do that? But the boy knows nothing about her. No face, no age, no name. Meanwhile, the villagers cry out that he's the only one, so they should stop running away. The main character thinks that since he came to take her with him, he should question each one by one, to recognize her by her voice. He can't just cut down everyone without a reason, unless he intends to take her life too. Meanwhile, the guy looks up at the sky, where reinforcements are flying, after which they land and tell Lugal to give orders. Meanwhile, Kun approaches one of the dogs and lets it sniff his blindfold. The protagonist realizes it's the same blindfold she used to blindfold him. And does the guy really want to track her down and put her into eternal sleep? But then the girl realizes that's not why he came, and that Kun is there to take her with him. Meanwhile, the boy insists that those in the cave have trespassed on their sacred lands without permission, disturbing the peace of their ancestors. Therefore, their actions have earned them eternal slumber. Let them inspect the surrounding area and slumber them all, and then impale their bodies on stakes. The main character realizes she was wrong, and Kun isn't going to take her back. How can she hope for anything, looking at his furious face? The guy also shouts for them to search everything. She went missing not long ago, so let them find her and bring her to him. A short time later, the protagonist sees that they've killed everyone except her, who's hiding in a tree. They've plunged every single one of them into eternal sleep. If she'd hesitated a bit, would her body have been hanging among the others? But the girl thinks that this can't be, because Kun wouldn't do that to her. Even looking at this mountain of bodies, she still can't shake off hope, but she wonders why he wants to put her into eternal sleep. After all, she asked him to forget about the debt, and he could simply live his life and not remember. Why does he want to kill her, when she did save him? From that moment on, an endless series of days began for her, filled with the fear of falling into eternal sleep. In the Baekyeom Mountains, the Northerners brutally exterminated those who mined the sacred stone. and Mars circled constantly in the skies above the mountains, preventing the defilers from escaping even in the deepest cave. The number of search parties grew with each passing day, and even she, a runaway slave accustomed to constant hiding, sometimes found it difficult to avoid their notice. The lady understood that at this rate, she would surely soon be sent into eternal sleep. There were moments when she wanted to end it all and was ready to surrender to the Northerners, but the thought of being impaled alive or fed to the eagles filled her with horror. As she crept from one cave to the next, she was tormented by doubts about whether Kun really intended to put her into eternal sleep. However, she couldn't understand why, as he had no compelling reason for doing so. But maybe he was simply looking for her because he missed her and wanted to take her with him. And when this belief filled the lady's mind, she went outside. She realized there was nowhere else to hide, and she had no answers. And if she was going to fall into eternal sleep, she should at least find out the reason for his actions. The girl retrieved an axe from a small cave belonging to a Kun named Erthur. She took it and headed for the salt castle, but when she approached, one of the guards asked if she knew anything else. After all, the new priest of the sun, god Utu, is the strongest and bravest warrior in the north. Lugal Kun, son of the great Huatu and Kahali, united all 11 mountain tribes. A few months ago, he married the most beautiful girl in the north, and before winter, they will have a royal heir. The Black Rock tribe, long in conflict with the Salt Mountain people, sent an envoy. He claimed that Utu himself appeared to their leader in a dream and commanded him to make peace and unite with their tribe through marriage. Their leader's daughter was beautiful and noble, and this union would bring great joy to the people of the Black Rock. As an apology for turning a blind eye to the extraction of sacred stones, their leader gave them this gift. They asked the chief of the Salt Mountain to visit the renovated Utu temple on the Black Rock and celebrate the reconciliation of their tribes. They would also be delighted to see all their family and friends. If everything suits him, then they are ready to immediately perform the ritual that will mark their unity. After the envoy's departure, the alarmed chief of the Salt Mountain held a council. One of the counselors said that the offer of reconciliation was undoubtedly very tempting, but the blood of the man-eating eagle ran through their veins, and they could not marry the heir to a girl from another tribe. But another asked whether Utu's message could be ignored. Even though they were a different tribe, the pain and history of the northern tribes were shared. At this time, Kun's father turned to the guy and asked what he would say, since it was about his wedding, so he wanted to hear his opinion. The youth replied that he would follow Utu's will. His father had said that was good, and they should pay due attention to their promise of truce and their oath in the name of the sun god. Therefore, let them convey to everyone that he was going to the Black Rock. The chieftain, having gathered all his relatives, headed to the land of another tribe, where a warm welcome awaited them for 10 days. Food and drink were plentiful, and the chieftain's 2 beautiful daughters, dressed in luxurious clothing, greeted the guests. The atmosphere between the tribes was friendly and relaxed. The Salt Mountain tribe cast aside all doubts and headed to the temple, but there, one of the tribesmen stabbed the chieftain with a spear. He claimed they no longer worshipped Utu and would henceforth serve Arman and the Cathar of the Golden Forest. And now, by order of the Golden Forest, they would exterminate the Salt Mountain tribe and come to their land. It was a merciless massacre. The unarmed people of the Salt Mountain tribe were treacherously plunged into eternal sleep. Then Kun's mother handed him an axe and told him that at least the boy would save their tribe. After that, only Kun survived. While his parents, younger brother, and fellow tribesmen were being brutally put into eternal sleep, the boy cleared an escape route with an axe and then disappeared. Had he been put into eternal sleep, no one would have been able to protect the people of the Salt Mountain from the enemy. After all, he was the only survivor of the chieftain's family and must now look after his tribe. His wounded body barely obeyed him as Kun trudged through the raging snowstorm to reach the cedar forest that served as the border between the lands of Salt Mountain and Black Rock. Only when he got there did he realize he was the only one left who had survived. The boy cried out that he swears by the divine light and the name of Utu that he will definitely take revenge, and the offering to the sun god will be the lives of each of them. Since they had sworn to exterminate their entire tribe, he promised the same. In the name of the god Utu, he would plunge everyone into eternal sleep, from their leader and his family to the children of the slaves and the livestock. He will destroy everything that breathes and moves in their castle. He also swears in the name of the great god Utu that there will be no funerals for his family, no mourning for them until he keeps his oath, no feasts or songs to cheer him, and no women to make him happy. Otherwise, Utu's wrath and curse will fall upon him. He will do none of this until he keeps his word. But then the main character found him. The chieftain's son was able to reach the salt castle 3 weeks later. He showed no tears, no anxiety, no mental pain to anyone who met him. He only revealed that everyone except him had fallen into eternal sleep on the Black Rock. Soon, Kun performed the sacrifice and became a priest in the temple of Utu. And then he kept his promise. Leading warriors from 11 mountain tribes, he set out for Black Rock Castle. And, from the chieftain down to the infants, he exterminated everyone there who showed any sign of life. This merciless massacre continued all day. Returning to the Salt Castle, Kun ordered the chieftains of each tribe to defend the Baekyeom Mountains from the Southerners and the people of the Golden Forest. The next day, the Northerners proclaimed the young leader of the Salt Mountain tribe as Lugal, who became the king of 11 mountain tribes, and thus Lugal united the entire North. The servant claims he's been through hard times, and it's good he married the beautiful Erish and finally found peace. With the previous chieftain's family almost completely wiped out, news of the birth of an heir to continue Lugal's lineage became important for the entire North. The main character listens to all this in shock, and the guy claims that they say the mountain of wedding gifts reached the ceiling. They are so happy, because Lugal hardly leaves his wife's room. He asked them to be understanding of her current condition, and it seems that even Lugal himself is powerless against Erish. Another servant says that it's simply a time when a wife is pregnant, and a man is obliged to please her in every possible way. This is the fate of every man, whether you're Lugal or just an ordinary guy. His interlocutor replies that of course, because a great warrior needs rest after a great battle, and Erish will soon give him a precious child, so one can only imagine how happy he is now. The main character wonders why she came there. Did she really expect an apology from him and want to know why he betrayed her? Or perhaps she was planning to throw that axe at his feet so he could send her into eternal sleep himself. The young man had married the most beautiful girl in the North, and in a few months they would have a child. He probably decided that her very existence shouldn't disturb this beauty. He didn't want her to know how briefly he'd fallen for the slave while he was held captive by the enemy. So he came to the cave to lull her into eternal sleep. She shouldn't have come there, and she shouldn't have listened to his story. If she hadn't known any of this, she would have continued to remember him fondly and been happy. But this is the end. The main character asks for a favor and wonders if they could pass it on to Lugal if they meet him. The servant asks what it is, and the lady replies that a girl she met on the way there asked her to take this thing to the chief of the Salt Mountain tribe. The young man then asks the lady to wait and asks her name and what he should tell the chief. The girl replies that she doesn't know, that they just met by chance, and that she doesn't know her name. If he doesn't manage to meet Lugal, then he should just take it for himself or throw it away, since the girl is no longer alive. The guy claims he'll give it to him when they meet, but the lady replies that there's no need. Rainier thinks she'll run away, so he tells them to give it to him in a week, or better yet, in 7 weeks, or even better, in 7 months. In her mind, the lady adds, when this idiot completely forgets her, after which he says that in 7 or 70 years would be even better. Let them do it then. A short time later, the protagonist runs through the forest and realizes she can't stay there any longer. There's nothing holding her there, but at that very moment, the girl trips and falls to the floor. When she tries to get up, she notices that the kuna stone is still hanging around her neck. The lady realizes she forgot to give it back, but she can't go back, and the girl thinks what an idiot she is. She can't stay in the North any longer. Although her brand has no power in the cursed land of beasts, it is now time to return to the Golden Forest, so that this idiotic brand does not burn her to ashes. I need to get to that disgusting place. The slave mark on her chest hurts when she's outside the Golden Forest. This is a terrible curse that can only be lifted by the person who cast it. It will take just 4 days for the brand's flame to pierce the fugitive's heart. Now the main character feels a sharp pain and understands that, after she left the northern mountains and reached the border of the southern country, her chest was pierced by pain, signifying the awakening of the curse. It was a 4-day ride from the Baekyeom mountain range to the Golden Forest, so she had to make it there in that time. As the lady gallops on her horse, she realizes she's in so much pain that she screams out for someone to help her. The girl thinks about Mr. Gidget and wonders how many years she hasn't spoken that name, but at that very moment, the horse rears up and throws the girl off. The main character screams in shock for the horse to stop running away, realizing she won't make it to the Golden Forest without it. She then presses herself against the tree trunk. The lady understands that this is extremely painful, as if her heart is melting. She must get to the Golden Forest, but even if she returns there, the land is swarming with priests, and how long will she be able to hide from them before they find her, a runaway slave, and tear her to pieces? It would probably be better for her to stay there, but at that moment, someone cries out to Rainier, and when the lady looks up, then she sees Mr. Gidget. The girl immediately turns around and wants to run, but at that very moment, something explodes behind her. Lady turns to Gidget, who simply approaches her and claims they haven't seen each other in a while. Lady realizes it's a voice sweet as honey and hair like golden thread. She also sees the familiar cold gleam in his beautiful eyes. The man claims he didn't think she would turn her back on him and run away, even though it was in her best interests to heed his warning. He told her to come back in 4 days, and not a day later. The lady promised him this, and the guy asks if she remembers. The protagonist replies yes, and her interlocutor claims she only returned 3 years later. He also asks if it ever occurred to her that he would be waiting for her all that time. The man places his hand on the lady's face and asks if she had been hiding in the Baekgyo Mountains all this time and wanted to avoid the brand, to which the girl replies that she had. Gidget says it must have been really hard for her. Then he reaches out to her chest and casts a spell. The main character understands that the pain has passed, and her interlocutor claims that he never abandoned the hope that she was still alive, and he, as promised, waited for her, and also thought that he would go crazy during these 3 years. And she hid in the northern mountains, after which the man embraces the lady. The main character turns to him with a bit of surprise, and her interlocutor tells her to wait and stand like that with him for a little while longer. Let him see for himself that this is all real, and not just a figment of his imagination. Also, let the lady not forget that she promised to dedicate her entire life to him. Several years ago, on the island of Elda, an old fisherman sold a slave girl for just 6 shekels. That's half the average price. The lady knew very well why the owner was trying to get rid of her for a pittance. After all, she had recently sent his youngest son into eternal sleep after he attacked her with a piece of bronze that happened to be at hand. The old man had been hesitant to send her into eternal sleep for fear that the same fate would befall him as his son. So he decided to sell her on the slave market. When one of the customers passed by her, the girl realized that she was seeing such a dazzlingly handsome person for the first time. The man then asked if the girl was mature, to which his interlocutor replied that she was. When he uttered the name Anish, the protagonist realized she'd heard that the high priests of the Golden Forest, who control the Ark, that is, the power of the sacred stone, are Anish and Enugi, and Altir is the forest's guardian, who oversees everything that happens there. But the girl wondered if this handsome man was really a man, after which the lady thought it unlikely, although she did indeed have no breasts. When the man looked at the lady, she actually shuddered. Gidget insisted the girl didn't fit his description and thought he should check. His interlocutor exclaimed, "Of course!" and asked what the girl was worth, since she should just undress quickly. The main character asked if she really had to do it there. The lady understood that this was all retribution for her brazen staring at that priest of the Golden Forest. But the lady wondered if she really needed to strip naked in front of all these onlookers. Perhaps it would be better to try asking him for forgiveness. But at that very moment, her master screamed at the girl to quickly take off her dress, or he would beat her. But at that very moment, Gidget told him to stop. At her age, shyness was common. Then the boy cast a spell, and everyone around him cried out in shock that it was Ark, and he was controlling this power. The man claimed the girl was so dirty, it was difficult to see her face. Afterward, a large amount of water poured over the lady. The protagonist realizes she's never witnessed the power of Ark with her own eyes. But she's scared now, and she needs to apologize before it's too late. The lady immediately fell to the floor and cried out that she was Rainier from Elda Island, asking for forgiveness from the noble Anish. He was so handsome that she mistook him for Enugi, and so she begged him to have mercy on her if she had offended him. In her mind, the lady begged him for forgiveness. The man claimed the lady was quick to assess the situation and react just as quickly. He'd expected a tough shepherdess, but she turned out to be quite sweet, and he made her feel awkward, so he apologized. The man then uses wind magic to dry her. He turns to the lady and tells her to wrap herself up and sit for a while. He then says the girl is pretty and hands the slave trader a bag of coins. Gidget introduced himself and claimed to be Enish of the Golden Forest. The man also claimed that from now on, Rainier would work at the Golden Forest Temple. As the main character set off with him, she realized she'd thought she'd be scared to leave home, but surprisingly, that wasn't the case, and she'd be going on a ship. She wondered if the priests were always so silent. She hadn't eaten anything yet, and all they'd been doing was walking. Then the lady turned to Mr. Gidget, but he remained silent. When the lady turned to him again, he looked at her, and the girl understood that he probably didn't like to talk, but it wouldn't be possible to walk in silence all the time. The main character once again turned to Mr. Gidget and asked if he had any hearing problems. The man replied no, and the lady realized she already knew that. but at least now he'd answered her. Maybe if they chatted, he'd finally feed her. The girl asked if he disliked it when slaves were too talkative, and the man wondered if she was one of those who couldn't shut up. The lady replied that as a child, she used to chatter nonstop, but now she can go months without uttering a word. However, she adds inwardly that only if she's full. Her interlocutor claims it's not a bad thing and asks how it happened. The lady understands that it's simply better to keep her mouth shut to avoid getting into trouble. Then the girl explains that she's been tending flocks in a pasture for many years and has begun to forget human speech. Gidget says she's probably learned to communicate with these animals, and the girl replies, "A little." Then her interlocutor offers to demonstrate, and the lady asks if it's really now. The girl realizes he was asking her to shut up, but she's so hungry. After that, the main character starts moaning and claims she's thirsty. And she's also cold, so let the bastard warm her up and put her to bed, because she wants to sleep. The girl moans and claims that now she will plunge into eternal sleep from hunger. Her companion then bursts into laughter and says, "Okay, they can eat." A short while later, the main character is already wolfing down the bread, and the man is thinking how wrong this is, having succumbed to the game of a human slave. The Elios are the descendants of the Celestials, and the human race, created from mud by the gods, serves them with reverent awe. The Elios and humanity are as different as heaven and earth. That's why he doesn't like talking to humans. Hinting that the Elios shouldn't be approached without permission, he asked her to demonstrate animal sounds, but his hints were outrageously ignored. He also received a threat that if he remained silent, he would have to listen to a goat bleat, although this couldn't exactly be called a threat. The most interesting thing is that she reacted this way, perfectly understanding his intentions. A little while later, the girl turns to Mr. Gidget and asks whether they will go straight to the Golden Forest or stay somewhere else. The man replies that he needs to visit a few more places and needs more slaves. The lady turns to the master and says that if he doesn't want to talk to people, then why shouldn't she hang out with them until they reach the Golden Forest? He was probably tired, having traveled all this way without the help of a slave, but now she would be haggling for him at the market and provide him with food and lodging. The man knew this was true, as setting out on a journey without servants, he expected some difficulties, but he never imagined he'd receive such an offer from a single slave. Gidget claimed she was too young to make deals. He realized the lady looked intimidated, but was actually intelligent and perceptive. The girl insisted that she would then take on other dirty work to avoid causing him trouble. She would work the equivalent of 10 servants, and in 7 days, prove to him that she was worth not 10 shekels, but 100. The man realizes she's surprisingly hardworking, and the girl says he can count on her. Gidget thinks this smart slave is quite interesting, despite being just a dirty person, but it seems she'd be interesting to chat with. A little while later, the main character realizes that Mr. Gidget is a very nice person. After that day, she never went hungry, and he never scolded or hit her. He's strict, but with her intelligence, she can avoid problems. But when the young man addressed the lady, she wondered if all Elios spoke like that. He addressed her so tenderly that every time the gentleman spoke her name, her ears itched unbearably. Perhaps he really does have that voice, or perhaps he only speaks softly to her. After which, the main character realized she'd been staring at him and immediately turned away. Her companion only smiled after that, and the girl realized she'd better serve Master Gidget properly. A short time later, the girl was already trying to light a fire. But at that very moment, Gidget helped her with his power. When the girl tried to get a fruit from the tree, she couldn't reach it. At that moment, the man used the power of the wind and plucked a lot of fruits. The heroine brought him the fruit with a smile, knowing Mr. Gidget was a very kind person. A short time later, the lady was already pitching the tent and telling him she thought it would be cool today. The man replied that it would be cool and invited her to sleep in the tent that night. The girl became a little wary after this, and she understood very well how kind Master Gidget was to the slave, and he was hardly thinking about what she was thinking. After which, the girl glanced furtively at the boy, but he merely told her what evil thoughts she had. He would not cast aside the nobility of an Elios and desire a human woman, much less a slave. The main character understood that his words were filled with disgust and disdain, so Mr. Gidget felt nothing for her. He simply didn't know how much she had suffered at the hands of the men who had assaulted her, and after which, the main character bowed and thanked Mr. Gidget. The young man turned to her in surprise and asked if she was grateful to him for this, to which she replied that she was. Her companion replied that he understood and suggested she go to bed. A short time later, lying on a blanket, the girl realized that she usually slept outdoors, but now she was sleeping in a tent, and Mr. Gidget also created a bed of wind. The girl wonders how it can be so soft, and the priests of the Golden Forest are truly skilled, for they skillfully wield such amazing magic. The lady also turned to Gidget and realized that he had spread his cloak for her and was asleep, simply floating in the air. The protagonist wondered what she should do, whether she should return it, and whether she should wake him. After which, the main character finally turned to Mr. Gidget and asked if he was cold. Her interlocutor claimed the girl was making him fidget. Renier insisted that she wasn't talking about herself, but at that very moment, the boy used his powers to warm the lady. The main character thinks she's now warm, even a little hot, but this time, it's best to remain silent. In a short time, she learned something about Mr. Gidget when a snake slithered across the ground. The main character then stabbed her with a stick, but Gidget, seeing this, turned to Rainier and suggested she catch snakes when he wasn't looking. The girl realized he was showing weakness in ordinary things, and her interlocutor, seeing how the girl was cutting up a snake, told her to do it somewhere else. When the lady was frying grasshoppers, they jumped out of the rock, and the boy told her to tear off their legs first and then fry them. When the main character offered some to the gentleman, he insisted he wouldn't eat it. The lady insisted that the gentleman had really enjoyed the rabbit meat, and he'd devoured the stewed snake with gusto. The previous owner had said that stewed snake was a great way to restore strength, and didn't he enjoy it? But after that, her interlocutor cried out in shock, wondering if she had really fed him stewed snake. As the girl watched him standing near the tree, she realized he wouldn't throw up now, since everything had long since been digested. And he himself had said it was delicious, and didn't look like food poisoning, so what was wrong with him? The girl understood that the Elios were beautiful creatures, but very pampered, so she would take good care of him during the journey. A short time later, the man realized that a week had already passed since he had purchased this slave on the island of Eld. At first, it was fun just watching her, and then he let her talk to him until they got to the Golden Forest. But her ability to sense danger and her quick reaction, her precise and dexterous movements, as well as her ability to put the animals that block his path into eternal sleep, create the feeling that she is protecting him. It's hard to believe such a small girl can do all this, but here's the strange thing. Despite all her curiosity, she doesn't ask anything about the Golden Forest. The man tells the girl to stop looking at him and ask her questions directly. The lady then says that if Mr. Gidget allows it, then she would like to ask what she needs to do to become a priestess of the Golden Forest. Her interlocutor coldly asked her what she was talking about. All the priests of the Golden Forest are descendants of the sun god Utu, the six-winged Cathar. The Elios are imbued with the red fluid of the Celestials, and a man from the depths of filth will never become a priest. The main character claimed she was simply curious and wondered if all the priests were as handsome as him. After all, she had never seen a man more handsome than Mr. Gidget in her entire life. The boy's hair takes on the color of sunlight, and skin becomes whiter. Only priests can use the Ark, as Cathar, before leaving the Golden Forest, accepted his son's oath and permitted only the forest's protectors to use its powers. After falling into eternal sleep, the Cathar and his warriors and faces turned into large shining crystals, and these are the sacred stones. The girl admired this and said that they were beautiful during life, and after life they turned into an amazing stone, but this is not entirely fair. Her interlocutor told the lady that the Elios were deities who were only temporarily on Earth and not people of mud. Let her not apply human judgments to them. The main character apologized and insisted that it wouldn't happen again. Gidget understood this was strange, since raising a slave was a common occurrence, but every time he got angry at her, he felt uneasy. Unlike other slaves, she remembers everything quickly and well. The man then said that the power of the Cathar is stored in sacred stones, and they grant this power only to the priests who protect the Golden Forest. When the priest's red liquid and end spell combine, Ark emerges from the sacred stone. The man also asked if she had any other questions. The girl asked where the sacred stones were mined, and what kind of people lived there, as well as why there were bad relations between the Golden Forest and the North, who was in charge of this forest, and which god to worship when she got there. The protagonist asked what kind of creatures Cathar and Armanu were. The man replied that the crystals were located in the Pikyom Mountains, and that the reason for their poor relations was that the northern tribes of the Salt Mountain were interfering with their extraction. They are the descendants of the cannibal Armanu, and these dirty savages. But at that moment, the boy coughs a little and is surprised by this. The girl asks Mr. Gidget if he wants some water, but he thinks he can't believe it, since he only met the girl a week ago. The girl asked him what he was talking about and what the seven had done wrong. The man replied that a week was the time during which everything exists and comes to an end. These days were enough for everything that had happened to dissipate and sink into oblivion. He also claimed that their journey would be long, so he would tell her a story about two gods worshipped in the Golden Forest. He then began to tell her the story of the Golden Forest. During their journey, the girl realized that Mr. Gidget had little understanding of the world. When he chose a slave, he would ask the owner whether she had had her first menstruation, and nothing more. He wasn't particularly concerned about the price either. While it was perfectly reasonable to pay 30 shekels for a strong slave capable of heavy labor, buying a frail slave for 35 shekels was clearly unprofitable, but Master Gidget didn't care. They visited 2 islands and 3 cities, with their final stop being Minotos. During this time, 9 slave women joined them, and their journey lasted 3 weeks. Now, Mr. Gidget no longer allowed her to sleep in the tent, nor did he use the wind to make a bed or cut fruit from the branches. But she didn't mind sleeping on the bare ground or eating sweet figs. After all, Master Gidget hadn't revealed Ark's power to the other slaves, but had shown it only to her, because she was special to him, or so the girl wanted to think. A short time later, the man claimed that all those enormous trees were the Golden Forest. One of the slaves then asked Anish what they would be doing in the Golden Forest. He replied that there would be no hard work. By completing certain tasks, they would be able to live well, eat delicious food, wear beautiful clothes, and wear leather shoes. They will assist the priests in rituals of abundance and prosperity at the temple. Suddenly, the protagonist realized how wrong she had been about his kindness to her when she realized why he had bought her. The lady had heard this before. Rituals of abundance and prosperity involve intercourse between men and women. That's why the temple of the great gods always has priests and slaves assisting them. Besides, they'll be given nice clothes and delicious food, and things will be better there. The main character wondered if they were really saying it was better there. She remembers those disgusting looks and hands, and then wonders if she will have to go through this again, but she definitely doesn't want that. The girl immediately fell to the floor and screamed at Mr. Gidget, asking him to give her any other job, because she would work hard. A short time later, they were sitting by the fire, and Gidget asked the lady to explain everything to him. The girl claimed she had heard this from her previous master, and others, as a curse lived within her. All the men who tried to touch her with bad intentions suffered. Her interlocutor asks if the lady is really saying that, when they wanted to hurt her, she saw a black mist appear around their bodies. Rainier replied that yes, but she wondered if it was worth telling, but he would not bring her back. The boy asks if she remained unharmed when they were mutilated, and whether any of them instantly fell into eternal sleep. The girl replies that no, otherwise her former master would have put her into eternal sleep. She herself felt bad when she hurt someone, and she tried in every possible way to avoid it. It's hard to believe, but it's true. Gidget, the main character, once again turned to Mr. Gidget and asked if he had any hearing problems. The girl replied that perhaps it wasn't just a matter of upbringing. Taking her time, she recounted in detail the prophecy of the goddess Inanna, which was both a blessing and a curse. Looking at him, she claimed to have rejected him, and her interlocutor asked if she had rejected Inanna's gift. After much deliberation, Mr. Gidget continued the conversation. He claimed that when the goddess decided to gift her, she most likely shared her warrior power, or the girl was already born with this power, which is what attracted Inanna's attention. In any case, she can escape danger without getting hurt, and this pleases him. The main character is a little surprised by these words, and recalls how everyone said she was cursed and brought misfortune. One of the slaves asked how the slave dared to harm a man, and why the master hadn't yet put this girl into eternal sleep, but he claimed he, too, could fall under the curse, and ordered the girl locked up, as she would soon be sold. The protagonist wondered if she'd ever heard anything like that from anyone, simply because she'd managed to escape danger and remain unharmed. Gidget stroked the lady's head and assured her that she had endured much. Had she not been a slave, this gift could have been a great blessing, but Inanna had been spiteful toward her. Everyone's fate is predetermined, and it won't be that difficult for her in the future, so let her just be patient for a little while. The main character couldn't hold back her tears after this, but she knew she needed to calm down, because Mr. Gidget didn't like it when people cried loudly. Their home in the Golden Forest was very beautiful. The whitewashed walls glinted in the sun, making the interior fresh and pleasant. The spacious courtyard was filled with fragrant flowers and trees. As soon as they arrived at the Golden Forest, it was instead of Mr. Gidget. The priestesses Mine and Yada began to look after them. They treated them coolly, but did everything they could to ensure the slaves were comfortable. The Golden Forest was much richer and more comfortable than they had imagined. Delicious food was plentiful, and they could dress beautifully and wear jewelry, but the faster the girls got used to life in the Golden Forest, the more anxious the main character felt. She felt uneasy when they dressed up joyfully, and the sight of those delicious dishes made her throat dry. Another slave asked why Master Gidget didn't come to them, since she missed him so much. Another replied that she wanted to see his beautiful face again. Her interlocutor asked if the girl had seen the gentleman use the ark, and the other answered that she had never seen him, and she was so curious. But when they turned around, they saw the main character, and one of them irritably announced that a noble maiden had arrived. The slaves hadn't spoken to the girl since she refused to help the priest, begging him to assign her any other task. Whenever she couldn't bear to stay with them, she went outside to work. When the disturbing thoughts left her head and she felt better, the lady was preoccupied with one question. Why is this place called the Golden Forest? It's so dark, cold, damp, and gloomy there. The girl wondered where the glitter of gold was, but when she looked up, she saw golden rays breaking through the branches of the trees, and they looked so much like the hair of Mr. Gidget. At this time, the lady also noticed the basket lying on the floor and realized that Mrs. Yada was unhappy yesterday that the firewood ran out so quickly, so she could gather branches before the sunset. When the girl had gathered a little, she thought it would be enough, but at that moment, someone cried out, asking what she was doing. The man shouted at her to stop immediately, for she hadn't really touched the trees. The girl noticed his luxurious attire and realized he was the high priest of the Golden Forest. The little girl apologized, claiming she'd run out of firewood and had decided to gather some. Her companion screamed at her for daring to touch the sacred trees and injure Armena herself in the Golden Forest. Anyone who harms Armin will fall into eternal sleep. The high priest aimed his power at her, but she managed to dodge it. Her companion asked how she dared to do such a thing. The lady claimed to be Rainier from the island of Elda. She had been bought to work at this temple, and since she had only recently arrived, she didn't know that touching the trees of the Golden Forest was forbidden. The girl apologized and insisted that this would not happen again, so she begged him to forgive her. But the man insisted that whoever harmed the trees would be put to eternal sleep at Altir's hands. The protagonist noticed a black mist near his hands, after which she realized that justifying herself and pleading were futile. The lady started to run, and the man screamed for her to be caught and tied up immediately. The protagonist knew she didn't want to fall into eternal sleep, but she wondered where she could run, since all the trees were the same. But at that very moment, something exploded in front of her, and when the girl turned around, the high priest said that she had not only harmed the trees, but also dared to run away from the guardian of the forest, so let her plunge into eternal sleep right now. The main character closed her eyes and thought that this was the end. But at that very moment, someone protected her. It turned out to be Gidget. The boy asked the lady what had happened, and she turned to him in a trembling voice. The lady claimed that she had broken several branches of the trees growing near the temple, but suddenly Mr. Altir appeared. Gidget said how foolish she was, and how could the girl have forgotten that the Golden Forest was protected by priests? Altir was bound body and soul to the Armanu tree and shared its life. This tree is forbidden to be touched, and attempting to pluck its branches is considered a threat to the life of the forest's keeper. The lady claims she simply wanted to gather firewood and had no intention of doing so. The high priest shouts for Gidget to leave immediately, but the man insists he is responsible for raising the slaves and tells the girl to stay behind him. The main character cries out excitedly to Mr. Gidget. Then the high priest directs his power at him and asks if he dared to stand in his way. He also tells the boy to step aside, as the girl had harmed Armin. But Gidget kneels and begs Altir to forgive her. This slave is needed for the spring festival, and her actions are the result of his poor upbringing. He begs her forgiveness as the girl meant no harm. The high priest thinks how annoying this guy is. He constantly contradicts him, and now he refuses to obey at all. The man claims that Gidget's actions are absurd and selfish. These slaves don't become the embodiment of Armanu during the celebration. And did he really bring this girl to turn the ritual into a mockery and thereby humiliate him? His interlocutor replies that he absolutely would not, as he would never dare insult him. The lady lacks knowledge yet, and he will thoroughly train her before the spring festival to prevent any mishaps during the ritual. The high priest asks how he can turn a blind eye to the crime, and the price for the branches Armin torn off is her life. The boy bows even lower and asks Altir to have mercy, for the girl was ignorant, and would she have acted this way if she had known? Her presence is essential during the celebration, and he will accept the reprimand for neglecting his duties of supervision and education. So she asks him to curb his anger. She will be properly prepared, and this will never happen again. Altir realizes that this is the first time he's seen the boy so accommodating. At this point, the high priest turns to the girl and asks why she left the house and started collecting firewood. After all, they are provided with everything they need and are well fed. The lady replies that they are well fed and have had their fill of the food they were recently brought. The only problem is that they've run out of firewood, and she thoughtlessly went looking for it. No one warned her against touching the trees, and she promises that won't happen again. The man tells Gidget that he is responsible for the slave's misdeed, for failing to keep an eye on her, so he should heal his hand and await further instructions. The boy replies that he will obey. When he leaves, the main character turns to Mr. Gidget with concern and asks if he is okay. The lady sees the wound on his hand and, with tears in her eyes, asks what to do. Gidget says he has a headache and tells her to be quiet. Then the girl watches as the burn fades. Gidget claims he used Ark's power to fake the burn, so she shouldn't worry. The protagonist wonders if the burn is fake, but she saw the fire scorch his hand. After that, the protagonist thinks, so that's how it is. He tricked not Lord Altier, but her. Now the lady says that's not true, and that Mr. Gidget deliberately took the hit. The guy, looking at the lady, claims that she's even too perceptive. If he had remained unharmed, Altier's anger would have been unstoppable, but she shouldn't think about that. The burn was minor and wouldn't leave a scar, and the fact that a lock of hair and the edges of her clothing were burned off. But at that very moment, he sees the lady crying and is a little surprised. The girl immediately falls to her knees and cries out in apology, claiming that she truly didn't know. The man approaches Renier and claims that the slaves were clearly warned about the sanctity of the trees, but they didn't tell her about the ban. He also asks if the girls would like to communicate with him. When he strokes the main character's head, the girl thinks that, unlike his words, Mr. Gidget's touches were so warm and gentle, so she couldn't calm down for a long time. A little while later, the main character runs after one of the priestesses and tells the mistress to wait. Mine asks why she's so slow. Even before participating in the spring festival, she needs to look beautiful, like Armin. She should always hold up her skirt, otherwise she'll trip and fall. She also asks what the girl is babbling about. The protagonist replies that the priest's dwellings are simply so amazing. The lady realizes that, according to the stories, each priestess, using the ark, builds her own home at the top of a tree, where the slaves cannot climb. The girl saw so many different buildings for the first time, but her interlocutor at this time says that they are in place. After which he claims that Mr. Gidget lives there. The lady is surprised and exclaims that this is unbelievable. Mine claims that if Master Gidget hadn't intervened yesterday, she would have fallen into eternal sleep at the hands of Altier. Therefore, let the girl rise and thank him properly for saving her. When the main character goes inside, Gidget claims the house is built out of water and asks if she likes it. The little girl insists that everything inside is amazingly beautiful. The main character says that's how it is, and her interlocutor claims that he is also studying herbal medicine, and such walls prevent the spread of odors. After which, the guy hands the lady a basket with something, and the girl asks what it is, and then notices that it is raisins and dried figs. Her companion claims he's prepared a feast to her liking, so let the lady enjoy it, and while she eats, he'll tell her everything she needs to know. Other Elios are also sitting nearby, listening in on these conversations. One of Gidget's students, named Kyriake, screams that this is simply unbearable to listen to, and how a pathetic man from the dirt dared to communicate with the mentor. But she herself knows how much he suffered from the burn yesterday. Their strongest and most beautiful mentor was attacked by Altier over a pathetic slave. And how can one understand the mentor's words about building a house out of water to avoid accidentally starting a fire? In the entire history of the existence of priests and Altiers, no one has managed to apply such a high level of mastery of the ark and create a house completely surrounded by water. In this way, he clearly demonstrated the difference between himself and the priests of Altier. Moreover, the mentor is a healer, and no one can surpass him in his knowledge of herbs. Master Gidget is not one to easily impart his knowledge, and is very picky in his choice of students. And now he sits across from a filthy slave girl, conversing with her. The most beautiful and distinguished Elios in the Golden Forest is now sitting with a man of filth. Shibato insists that she has to participate in the spring festival, so there's no need to be so angry. But at that moment, they hear their mentor laugh, and the girl, shocked, asks if her mentor can really laugh like that. Meanwhile, the man tells the protagonist to be careful and not damage any more trees. He also asks if the girl remembers what he said. If our Manu dies, then Altira will suffer the same fate. It doesn't matter how many leaves or flowers fall, but you mustn't break any branches. The punishment for this is 50 lashes. The girl, shocked, asks if 50 lashes are really for one branch. She also realizes that yesterday she miraculously survived. Her interlocutor insists that only slaves can get away with such a punishment, and that she was saved by her participation in the spring festival. but if a priest deliberately plucks a branch, he'll be killed. The lady claims this is unthinkable, since how could an Elios even take a twig from a tree? The boy replies that it's not just a twig, and she knows how Altir is chosen. The lady replies that she does not know, and her interlocutor claims that in the center of the Armanu tree, there are dazzlingly shining golden branches, and they are called the fingers of Armanu. The priest who breaks one of them and uses it to plunge Altir into eternal sleep will take the vacant position of guardian. The main character closes her mouth in shock, and her interlocutor claims that many Altirs experience the end of their lives in their sleep, and therefore the forest keeper hardly sleeps and does not trust those around him, especially the powerful priests. He believes only in the sacred tree, Armanu, which once chose him, but one day it too will abandon its guardian. With age, Altir loses his strength, stateliness, and beauty, and then the tree chooses a younger, more resilient man. Like the beautiful Arman from the legend who abandoned Katara. Once a priest becomes an Altir, he lives in fear for his life, never knowing when his end will come. Such is the price of his greed, and he must defend the tree alone, even at night when everyone else is asleep. And tirelessly he awaits his opponent, the fight with whom will decide the keeper's fate. If a younger, stronger priest plucks the golden branch and challenges Altir to a duel, he, in turn, must also pluck a branch and accept the challenge. Without Ark's power or other weapons, they are forced to fight only with Arman's fingers. They both fight fiercely, risking their lives, until Arman declares a winner. Young, resilient, wise, and full of vitality, the protagonist understands that there is no place for holiness or nobility in this forest. There is only meanness and cruel traditions. The girl claims that Altir's position brings him more loneliness than glory. The boy replies that yes, it does, and it's a terrible, painful loneliness. Many guardians have become tyrants due to a clouding of their minds, or have fallen into madness. But among the priests, there is no one who would not dream of taking his place, for the golden forest is connected with the heavens and the earthly firmament. The keeper becomes one with the forest, and this is the instinctive greed of all Elios. The girl then asks whether it turns out that Mr. Altir is hostile towards him because he fears for his life. Her interlocutor replies that it's entirely possible, but asks if she thinks he hates him too much. The girl thinks that Mr. Gidget is going through a lot of hardship and grief right now, so how nice it would be if she could support him. The boy turns to Renier and claims that throughout the Altir's existence, many of them have tried to exterminate the Northerners, especially the Salt Mountain tribe. He also asks if she knows the real reason. The girl asks if this is because they interfered with the extraction of the sacred stone. Her interlocutor replies that yes, but that's only an imaginary reason. It's not enough to exterminate an entire tribe. Let her remember the legend of the Golden Forest, which he told her on the way there. The protagonist asks if this is really what she thinks it is. He wonders if the Ilios really want to return what the Qataris have lost, that is, divine light and eternal life. Her interlocutor replies that yes, and the priests who desire the same are called fundamentalists, and he is one of them. But there are also those who are joining forces and trying to create a powerful and strong nation there, on this land. They are called the Realists, and their representative is the current Altir, named Kiros. They call them apostates. Having abandoned the purpose given to them by Qatar and Utu, they crave worldly wealth and power, and so they have long been at odds with each other. The differences between these two factions leave no chance for reconciliation. They have no reason to wait for Armand, as Qatar did. Therefore, they will wipe out the Salt Mountain tribe and the cannibals' descendants in order to attain divine light. Afterwards, they will burn the tree to regain their immortality and ascend back to heaven. The lady says it was said there, after all, that if the sacred tree were destroyed, the Altir associated with it would also perish. The boy replies that only the human shell would perish, but as an Elios, he would regain eternal life. This dirty shell is not worth depriving them of new life, and the girl says that, then everything is fine. The boy claims he intends to complete the sacred mission bestowed upon the Elios, and the protagonist understands that this means that Lord Gidget will become Altir, conquer the north, and plunge everyone in the Salt Mountain tribe into eternal sleep. This also means that Mr. Gidget will have to duel on the golden branches. Meanwhile, the man turns to Rainier and asserts that being the guardian of the forest is a great honor. But it's also a curse. After all, no one can be trusted, and Altir doubts even those who protect him. The constant fear and loneliness drive him mad, and maintaining sanity under such circumstances is extremely difficult. The girl thinks that these secrets should not be revealed to the slave, so why does Master Gidget tell her about this? And what does he want? The lady thinks about the most desired thing for him, after which, The girl jumps up and cries out to Mr. Gidget that she will protect him and do everything in her power to do so. She has the keen eyes of a hunter, which will spot any danger. Moreover, she's a slave, not a priest, so he can rely on her. The lady asks him to let her guard her and vows to protect him even at the cost of her life. Her interlocutor smiles after this and then bursts into loud laughter. The man claims he didn't expect to hear something like that, especially from a girl who would have burned to ashes yesterday if not for him. The lady understands this is true. After all, he was the one who saved her yesterday, and she herself naively declared that she would protect him. Gidget says fine, and he accepts her oath. They say words can become reality, and he will remember her promise. But it's too late, so let the lady return to her home. A little while later, one of the students comes into the teacher's room to report that she has done what he ordered. But when the lady looks up, she's surprised to see her mentor looking at the fig and smiling. A short time later, the protagonist finds herself in the dorm. One of the ladies asks another if she heard that, a few days ago, Lord Gidget had a fight with Lord Altair. The other lady asks why, and she replies that she doesn't know, but they say he was able to fend off the guardian's blows. The girl asks if Mr. Gidget is really that strong, and what exactly happened. Her friend insists that if Mr. Gidget intervened, there must have been a good reason. The main character stands to the side, realizing she's the reason, but now she feels a little ashamed. Meanwhile, one of the ladies asks if Mr. Gidget is married. Another replies that it certainly is, but her friend insists that priests don't marry, and her former master told her so. Then her friend asks how they have children, and Lady Mine only mentions them occasionally. But at that very moment, someone cries out to Rainier and claims that Mr. Gidget is calling her. Therefore, the girl should change her clothes and go to him. A little while later, the main character sits in front of Gidget and wonders if these are really his home clothes, but for some reason, she can't look directly at him. The girl asks if he really needs to write on all those clay tablets, to which the man replies that yes, he always has plenty of work. Some people want him to grow old and fall into eternal sleep while doing this. The lady understands he's talking about Altair. The Golden Forest's main source of income is the sale of clay tablets imbued with the power of the Ark. Therefore, all priests must make a certain number of them. The girl then asks how many types of Ark there are. The guy replies that there aren't many, but there will be more, because the priests are constantly improving, and today, he wanted to tell her about the Ark. The sacred stones contain 4 powers: power, heat, time, and radiance. Priests cannot control time alone. To use the Ark, one must cast the end spell. Afterward, the man claims that a hot wind will blow. He casts a spell, and the main character feels a pleasant breeze blow past her face. The lady is surprised by this, after which the guy also shows fire. Rainier claims it's astounding. Her companion says the power can be used in various ways, and with it, air, water, and even objects can be moved and reshaped. The girl exclaims that it's incredible, and Mr. Gidget is simply amazing. The guy then takes out another object, and the lady says it's like transparent gold. Her interlocutor claims she described it beautifully, and will later see what kind of art can be extracted from it. When he does this, the girl notices the glow and is shocked. She thinks her head is hot and doesn't understand what's happening. Her companion suggests they wait, as she'll be very surprised. But when he casts the spell, the girl suddenly shudders. Then she leans back slightly, and a gust of wind passes by her face, snipping off a few strands of her hair. Lady, watching this, asks what it is, and Gidget replies that it's her hair. He transferred the color of the sacred stone to them, and they are as beautiful as amber. He cut a strand with a wind blade to show her how the color had changed, and she seemed amazed. The girl asks if he really cut them with a wind blade, and her interlocutor replies that yes, and although he did not try to harm her, the lady reacted quickly, and there is no need to worry about anyone catching her off guard. The girl turns to him in shock and realizes that she, of course, knew that Mr. Gidget could easily take a person's life, but if she had moved even a little to the side, her head would have been damaged. The lady realizes she's terrified, and the boy turns to Rainier and apologizes, saying he changed the color on a whim without asking her, and now he'll change it back. Meanwhile, the girl is only thinking that if he ever wanted to get rid of someone like her, he could easily do so. The man then begins using magic and cuts his finger with a crystal. He then restores the girl's hair color. When the protagonist looks at the cut strands, she realizes they are her own brown hair. Gidget leans over to the lady and tells her not to be afraid, as he won't cut them off anymore, and apologizes for frightening her. But when the protagonist looks up, she sees red liquid on his hands and realizes Mr. Gidget has injured his hand. The lady immediately bows and cries out, begging for forgiveness, as it's her fault. Gidget asks what she blames herself for, and the girl replies that she chickened out and that it hurts him. Gidget asks if it was because of her, considering he cut himself so Ark's power could manifest. The protagonist replies yes, but understands he wanted to please and surprise her, so he showed her Ark's precious power, and she's so ungrateful. Her interlocutor insists that it's normal to feel fear and try to escape if you feel your life is in danger. The girl isn't to blame. That's just how she's developed. The lady shouldn't apologize to him without reason, like the other slaves, to which the girl agrees, but still cries. Her companion tells her not to cry, and she says she won't, but at the same time, she can't hold back her tears. She understands that Master Gidget doesn't like crybabies. After this, the guy says that, okay, she can cry, but let her bandage his hand. A little while later, the girl calms down and falls asleep, and Gidget holds her on his lap. A short time later, he brings the girl back to the dorm. Mind screams in shock, wondering what this is and what he did to this slave. But the man only turns silently to the lady, and when he looks at her, she falls silent. A short time later, Gidget explains to the protagonist how ordinary people can use the clay tablet. The girl realized she'd thought the gentleman would say something about how she'd fallen asleep that day, but he remained silent. She thought he'd gotten angry, and that's why he hadn't invited her for a whole week, and Lady Mine had scolded her. The woman asked what had happened, and the little girl wondered if she was angry because she had slept in front of Mr. Gidget. The lady answered honestly that she had cried too much and then fallen asleep, and Mr. Gidget must have picked her up and brought her home. The girl felt like the priestess didn't believe her, but Mr. Gidget acted as usual. The guy turns to Rainier, and when she flinches, he asks what's so upsetting. He claims a sweet drink will help her calm down. So let her drink it. After all, it's fresh goat's milk with honey, which he added with the help of Ark. The lady thanks him and declares that she will drink every drop. When she does so, the guy asks how she likes it. The lady replies that it's very tasty. The girl also realizes that all her worries have vanished, and she's now feeling sleepy. Gidget approached the lady and claimed she looked tired, asking if she had slept the night before. The girl could sleep if she was tired, and he wouldn't wake her. When the main character woke up, she wondered when she had fallen asleep and heard someone's voices. It was Mine's voice, asking Master Gidget if he understood that this slave would be participating in the spring festival. The man replied that he did. And then the lady asked if this meant that he was perfectly aware of what he had done, and whether he really wanted to incur the wrath of Lord Altir again, and whether the punishment he had received because of this girl was not enough for him. Knowing his actions would anger the keeper, he dared to touch the slave girl, who was preparing for an important event. The protagonist wonders what she's talking about, since Master Gidget hadn't told her anything about this. The woman argues that, of course, the girls participating in the celebration do not have to be virgins, but pregnancy is unacceptable. They will bring a curse upon themselves by sending a pregnant slave to the temple for a ritual of abundance and prosperity, and if Rainier does not start menstruating by the next month, she will be expelled from there. The main character listens to all this in shock and thinks about what she's talking about, because for this to happen, a man and a woman would have to do something indecent, and she hasn't even held hands with the guy yet. Meanwhile, Gidget insists he'll be more careful from now on. Mine says she still doesn't understand the reason for his actions and whether there aren't enough beautiful Enugi in the Golden Forest. And why would he do this to a girl participating in the celebration? And how could he even think of touching such an insignificant slave? The main character, shocked, wonders why Master Gidget doesn't deny it, since nothing happened between them. Ms. Mine had misunderstood something, and the way she felt when other men looked at her was very different from how she felt when Mr. Gidget looked at her. He, like every Elios, is noble and pure. The boy insists it's his fault, and he'll take responsibility. If Rainier doesn't start menstruating, he'll find another girl. A little while later, when the girl comes to Mr. Gidget, he asks if she's had enough sleep. The protagonist approaches the gentleman and claims she wants to ask him something. Her interlocutor claims the lady hasn't even woken up yet, and she already has a ton of questions to ask. The girl anxiously asks if he'll be punished because of her. Her interlocutor asks who told her this, and if it was Mine who told her. When the girl wants to answer something, the guy tells her not to worry, because it hasn't been decided yet. The actions of this apostate, that is, the chief priest, are increasingly crossing the line, and instead of carrying out the mission assigned to them, he oppresses the other priests who are diligently trying to fulfill it. The girl says that if this is because of her, then he should let her get punished. She's been beaten often since childhood, so it won't hurt her, and she'll recover quickly. But at that very moment, Gidget lightly slapped her forehead and told her not to worry. Of course, he'd have to endure Altir's wrath for a while, but Elios had never been subjected to floggings before. If they put him under house arrest, he can just relax at home, and when they order him to make clay tablets, the lady will help him. Moreover, for the punishment to be carried out, a trial must first take place, and he will definitely be present. So let the lady rest assured, nothing terrible will happen. The guy also turns to the lady and states that he sees that she wants to know something else. The girl immediately answers that yes, but in her mind she thinks that it is impossible to say directly whether he did something strange to her while she was sleeping. After which, the lady decides to ask about something else and asks what menstruation is. The guy is a little surprised and then turns away completely. The main character wonders what's wrong with him. Her interlocutor claims that she has already had menarche, so why is she asking about it? But the lady is interested in what it is and whether it is also related to menstruation. The man asks if this hasn't started yet, even though her master said that she is already ripe. The lady wonders if menarche means maturity, but she thought he was asking about the age at which she reached her prime. The guy then sighs and says that her owner lied to him in order to sell the lady faster, and she lied too. The girl immediately screams that she had no intention of deceiving him, and she simply did not know what it meant. The lady asks what this concept is, but the man says that it is enough, and let her turn to mine, or better yet, ask the other slaves. But be careful that the priestesses do not hear about it. The guy claims that it's just funny, but he was thinking about how to stop her. After which, he says that he would send her away, but immature girls cannot participate in the spring festival. The main character thinks that if she doesn't get to this event, then she will be thrown out of the Golden Forest, and the lady excitedly turns to Mr. Gidget. However, he says that that's enough for today, and let her return to her place. He will let her know when everything is decided. The lady understands that he has become cold as ice, and is it all because of her? The girl immediately falls to her knees and screams that it was her mistake, and she won't do it again, after which she asks not to be driven away. The guy asks what she did wrong, and what she won't do again. The girl doesn't know what to say to this, and Gidget claims that he told her not to ask for forgiveness, if she has no idea what she's guilty of. She probably also begged her former master at every opportunity, so how dare she behave the same way with him? The lady immediately cries out that her mistake is that she remained silent due to her own ignorance, and also asked about such strange things, after which she asks not to sell her, but the guy just turns around and leaves. He claims he'll call her later. Meanwhile, Gidget throws the board, and it shatters. The guy says he wasted his time using a blood-drying menstruation-preventing potion, but he used such a harmful remedy for the poor girl. But then the guy realizes that maybe it's even better this way. A little while later, the other ladies say that Rainier did a great job, but they thought she was strange. The main character asks if this is true and thanks them. The girl also thinks it's good that she remembered the priestess's hairstyles, and one of the ladies asks if she can style her hair differently. Rainier replies yes, but in exchange, let her answer her questions. A little while later, the girl asks if she still doesn't know, and you wouldn't guess she's such a fool. After which, the girl claims that she will tell and begins to explain what menstruation is. Then it moves on to what the girl and the guy are doing in bed, and how the baby is born. At that moment, the girl feels like her hair isn't being done, and when she turns to the main character, she asks what happened. The main character, lying facing the bed, understands that she has done wrong again, and fools do not deserve to live. The lady realized she'd found out what she wanted, but why had Mr. Gidget spoken, as if he'd done something strange to her, and had something really happened while she'd slept? She needed to go to him and find out. But a little while later, Mine tells the girl not to leave this house, because if she does not start menstruating by the beginning of next month, then she will not participate in the spring festival. The lady asks what they will do with her then, and her interlocutor replies that they will sell her outside the forest. No slave can stay there without Altier's permission, and this time, not even Master Gidget will protect her. Despite the fact that the offenses were committed by her, Mr. Gidget was sentenced to 100 lashes in public and 2 years of house arrest. This is the first time in the history of the Golden Forest that a high-ranking priest will be punished in this way, and Altier has ordered the sentence to be carried out today. The main character is shocked, wondering if she's really talking about 100 blows, even though he could fall into eternal sleep. The lady screams that this is all her fault and asks for a better beating. But her interlocutor asks how she dares to say such a thing and who the lady thinks she is. In any case, if she doesn't wish him harm, then let her sit quietly and not create problems. And she orders that Rainier be locked in the warehouse. A short time later, Gidget's students cried out that this was unacceptable and that it was impossible to flog an Elios, much less a senior priest. Such a thing had never happened in the entire history of the Golden Forest, and it wasn't Master Gidget who broke Armin's branches. They say the gentleman should be released. Meanwhile, Gidget looks at the bandages on his hands and wonders why there wasn't a trial. He also asks whether it's possible to determine the high priest's punishment without his participation, but another man wonders whether the opinion of the one deserving punishment will influence the verdict, since that's what the keeper ordered. At that moment, he orders them to drag him further, but the student screams that this is impossible, and they cannot take Mr. Gidget because he is not guilty of anything. But at that very moment, one of the people shouts for her to get out of the way, as the girl is disobeying Altier's orders. The lady screams for Master Gidget to be released immediately. And by what right do they take away the high priest without due process of law? The girl immediately extends her hand, intending to use her power, and claims that if they do not let Mr. Gidget go, then she will use her power right now. But at that very moment, Gidget screams for them to stop and not use the ark. Otherwise, he will personally plunge whoever did this into eternal sleep. The woman turns to the master and cries out that he should not give in so easily, because this is absurd, and the Elios cannot be punished with a whip. The guy thinks that now everything is clear to him, and such a demonstrative humiliation in front of the other priests was not without reason. If his supporters had not restrained themselves and attacked the priests of Altir, then this would have become a pretext to destroy them all. After which, the guy says that it's good, and let them take him to the keeper. A short time later, he stands opposite him and greets Altir. The man realizes that things have become more complicated. He ordered Gidget to be dragged there with deliberate brutality in order to initiate a skirmish with his supporters, but they ignored the provocation of his priests. And now he can't deal with him. One of the Elios says the guy is a high-ranking priest and the leader of the fundamentalists. But, despite the fact that he was not guilty, torturing the body of an Elios with a whip, this had never happened before. At the same time, people say that this is a punishment without trial. The resistance of the fundamentalists will be fierce, and a storm will break out because of the keeper. After which, the people turn to Altir and ask him to think again, and also not to neglect the customs of the Golden Forest. At that moment, someone whispers to the man and claims that they have no choice. It would be better to limit himself to punishing the slave and closing the case, since this would be a chance for his reconciliation with Gidget. After which, the man says to immediately bring the girl and spank her, and that will be the end of it. The boy claims that responsibility for raising slaves for this year's spring festival lies with him. He admits his guilt and will accept punishment. But at that very moment, the rest of the people turn to Mr. Gidget and ask what he is talking about. Altir says that since the guy has already decided so, then it will be his way, and let them carry out the sentence. A short time later, Gidget's students are tending to his wounds, and one of them asks if there's more of the potion, while the other replies that she's already mixing it. The girl cries out that the wounds are too serious, and the red liquid won't stop flowing. And why was their mentor punished so much? She can't believe it. For the mentor is the proudest and most impartial of the Elios, but now he's been subjected to such shame because of one filthy girl, because of a worthless slave, whom tearing to pieces will not be enough. A short time later, one of the ladies approaches Lady Kiriaka and claims that Lady Yada is asking Lord Gidget for a private meeting. The woman asks if she really wants to see the wounded mentor at such a late hour and let her tell her to leave. But at that very moment, Gidget gets out of bed and tells her to ask her to wait outside the door. When Kiriak wants to object, then the man only tells the girl to change the bandage and bring clothes, as well as jewelry, ointment, and fragrant oil. The lady screams at the mentor not to force himself to talk to her now because his body is in bad condition. But the man replies that no, and since the girl came at such a time, it means she has important news, and they should quickly prepare everything. A short time later, Yada announced the guardian's decision. Originally, he was to receive 100 lashes publicly, but Altir, concerned for his life, divided the execution into 2 parts. He will receive the remaining 50 lashes after the celebration, and until then, he is forbidden to leave his home. Gidget claims he understands, and he asks her to convey his gratitude. The girl claims that Altir was also enraged after hearing dirty gossip about his relationship with a slave, and as a result, he was additionally sentenced to 2 years of house arrest. The boy says he's grateful for that too, and wonders if there's anything else going on. The woman replies that they need to make scented candles and ritual incense for the celebration. Yada understands that Gidget is trying to maintain his dignity, although it's difficult for him to even sit in this state. But it's nice to see his mask of imperturbability slip and him give in. The guy asks me to tell Altir that he humbly thanks him, and if the lady is finished, it's time for her to return, as it's already very late. The girl replies that she will do so, but then remembers something, and claims that Altir ordered that the unfortunate slave be brought to the spring festival. But the guy claims that girls who do not have their periods due to pregnancy or infertility cannot take part in the ritual, and the keeper knows this very well. But the girl replies that no, because Rainier has started menstruating. Gidget hates people from the dirt to the core, and this makes him stand out even among fundamentalists. His dislike is so great that he avoids all human contact and therefore does not participate in the spring festivities. Only thanks to his exceptional ability to conceal his emotions has he not yet had any serious problems. But he began to behave strangely with a slave named Renier, and because of this girl, he received a burn from Altir. He brought her into his home and educated her, and having given up his Ilios pride, he received a punishment with a whip. But the most likely thing is that such a noble priest tried to prevent the slave from participating in the celebration by lying that he was involved in her pregnancy. Now, the boy insists that this couldn't have happened, and Yada asks the gentleman how he can be so sure. Did he really force the child to drink the potion that dries up the red liquid? He dared to deceive Altir, and this is unheard of audacity, but the man asks what Yada means. The woman claims that the girl, sobbing, admitted today that nothing happened between them, and that she was sold before she was mature, but that she started menstruating the other day. She was willing to take part in the celebration, if only he would be pardoned. But then the girl made such a fuss, begging to take his punishment in his place, that they locked her in the warehouse. The guy just grits his teeth after this, and his interlocutor says that, given his hatred of dirty people, it seems to her that that humble slave is useful to him in some way, rather than just being liked. The guy then abruptly gets up from the table, but immediately feels pain in his shoulders. Yada tells Enish Gidget to give up, because now he definitely won't be able to do anything. The girl will take part in the spring festival, but he will never get her. The girl then states that she hopes the wounds on his back will heal soon, as he still has to receive the rest of his punishment after the festivities are over. Gidget wonders if Rainier has started menstruating. That simply can't be true, as he is the most knowledgeable herbalist in the Golden Forest. She's consumed such a large dose of this pleasant potion that its effects should last for at least a year, and in the worst case, the girl will remain sterile. Because of her insight, he even had to add honey so that she wouldn't suspect anything. But the boy wonders why now. A little while later, he turns to Shibato and asks if he looks any different now. The woman claims that if a gentleman asks if he is the same as before, her answer is no. The boy claims he thinks he should have stopped in time and asks if that's true. His student, meanwhile, wonders when the mentor decided to get involved in all this and whether he really lost his sense of proportion and didn't realize it in time. The lady says, "Sir, it is not too late yet," but her interlocutor asks if this is really after he has already suffered. The woman claims he's Mr. Gidget from the Golden Forest and will recover soon. Shibato realizes she doesn't know how that girl could have influenced him so much, and perhaps even his mentor hasn't figured it out yet. After all, he is too reasonable and unwavering to ignore the reasons for his changes. In any case, the mentor can't do anything now, and she's even glad it turned out this way. Once all ties with the slave are severed, he'll be his old self again, the very head of the fundamentalists, who will defend his own position and fulfill a sacred mission. The man notices something at this time and turns to Shibato. He says that we need to wake up Kiriak and Farasaki, after which he tells them to stand in front of the door, and if he tries to break the sentence and leave, then let them stop him at any cost. The main character is at this time under Gidget's house, and when she turns to him, she asks if he is okay. The lady thinks how good it is that she remembers the way, and wonders if Mr. Gidget is inside there. And can't he go out, and is he prohibited from doing so because he was placed under house arrest? The lady thinks about what she should do and what she should say, because Mr. Gidget suffered because of her fault. At this time, the guy says how noisy she is. He told her not to cry because it gave him a headache. The man says it's already so dark, so how did she get there? One of the ladies realizes that she cannot hear any sounds from outside, so she does not understand why the mentor is suffering so much. But at that very moment, she sees him start using magic, after which he lowers her down. At this time, the main character notices something in front of her, after which she sees how she is surrounded by many glowing butterflies. Gidget claims that he is fine, and everything is fine, so the lady shouldn't cry. Let her look at the butterflies carefully. How beautiful they are. Incredible beauty appeared before the eyes, and a previously unknown variety of arc. Shibato understands that even she, who has trained under her mentor for so long, cannot repeat something like this. Lord Gidget revealed the extraordinary power of arc only to this slave. The main character leaves at this time, but still turns around once more. And when she finally leaves, Gidget realizes it. A little while later, the girls are already preparing for the celebration. They wear nice clothes and do nice hairstyles. One of the ladies claims that the girl is the youngest of them, and she was chosen first, But the lady should not be afraid, because it is not scary, and just do what she is told. They had rested and eaten well for this day, and suddenly her partner would be Mr. Gidget. The main character, watching this, realizes they've all gone mad. A little while ago, the priestess said that when the celebration began, they would each help one person with the ritual offering. In the morning, a draw is held to determine the participant in the ritual that day, and after completing her duties, she will remain in the prayer room until the end of the holiday. Since during the spring festival, people pray to Arman for a bountiful harvest, the ritual involving them is especially important. Throughout the celebration, they should remain in this house and patiently await their turn. But one of the ladies asks, what if someone dares to go out, and will their feet really be cut off? The main character realizes that loud sounds from the street can barely be heard. The lady wonders if Mr. Gidget is there, and whether Verk will be among the potential partners. But in any case, if it can't be avoided, then let Mr. Gidget be her partner. The lady's thoughts were jumbled, and she couldn't put a name to this shameless feeling. After participating in the ritual offering, Virka didn't return to them, but went straight to the prayer room, so they couldn't ask her anything, and every morning they drew lots. And there were fewer and fewer of them in the house. On the morning of the 8th day, the main character held a stick with a red mark in her hand. A short time later, she was already dressed in the offering robes. Someone told Rainier that she was magnificent, and that the girl looked more attractive with makeup than the others. Even Inanna and Arman weren't as beautiful, and she was simply a sight to behold. The lady also told the girl not to worry, because even Virka was braver, even though she was younger. So let the girl be patient for a little while, and everything will be fine. A little while later, the priestess insisted that Rainier wouldn't feel bad if she dressed up. Today, she will become the incarnation of Armanu, the goddess of the sacred tree. So let her get into the cart. But the girl, clutching her dress, realizes she doesn't want to go there. The lady understands she needs to run instead of getting into the carriage before it's too late. But at that very moment, the girl remembered Gidget and understood that she only needed to endure for one day. The lady thinks how funny it all is. All this noisy spring celebration, offering prayers for abundance, and the priests, who don't know that she has no right to participate in such an important event. A little while ago, the girl cried out, begging for the door to be opened. She asked to be punished instead of Mr. Gidget, since it was all her fault, but no one let the lady out. After which, she sat there crying. But at that very moment, the lady noticed a rat running past and remembered the words about menstruation. The lady immediately grabbed the rat and wounded it with a stone. A short time later, one of the priests welcomed Armana to the sacred marriage ceremony with the Cathar. The protagonist looks at the situation there and realizes it's terrible. As she heads up the stairs, everyone cries out to Armand, saying that she is the sacred tree of the golden forest and also the mother of fruits. After which, they tell her to condescend to them and come again. At this point, Altair extends his hand to Armand and addresses her. The main character, observing this, understands that what is happening now recreates the marriage of Qatar and Armand. It goes without saying that her partner will be Altair, that is, Qatar's successor. Meanwhile, the man heats up the iron brand. The main character lies down, and the man approaches her. He claims that with this sacred sign of the tree, he is connecting her to the forest. And now, the lady will become one with the deity Armanu. The lady then cries out in pain, and everyone else rejoices and asks Armanu to bless them and give them abundant fruits. The girl understands that this is the ritual of the Golden Forest, and now she understands why priests don't marry and live alone, and why they raise their children together. They simply need to repeat this ritual every year for 10 days. But the girl wonders why her noble priests are doing something like this to these despicable people of filth. The lady recalls how one of the girls claimed that the celebration would, of course, be attended by influential people. She heard that among the participants, there would be not only the rich and noble, but even rulers and members of their families. She said that influential people would come to the Golden Forest, and now it was clear to her they were entering into relationships with the priests, hoping that their children would be born Elios. The festival's guests eagerly await their participation in the ritual, as their children will live as Elios, and then, perhaps, their son or brother will even become the forest's guardian. This is how the Golden Forest maintains its influence to this day. So the marriage ceremony of Arman and Qatar is not for abundance and prosperity, and there is nothing sacred in it. The lady realizes that if Mr. Gidget is in that crowd now, then his partner is a stranger. And yet, she had no idea things were so dire there. The main character understands that it is time to give up, and she needs to endure a little, and everything will end. But at that very moment, the girl notices the jewelry lying on the floor and thinks, Wasn't that what was in Virka's hair? But why is it on the floor? When the girl turns around, she sees another friend's ribbon. If you look closely, you'll see other things lying around nearby, all of them belonging to the girls who were there before her. But then the main character wonders what stained the end of one of them. The girl realizes that the ribbon and decorations are on the floor, and there is something red on them, and there are also stains around the altar. The nauseating smoke seemed to mask some kind of odor. For several days, the word "run" echoed in her head, and the participants in the ritual offering, who had gone into the prayer room, were not seen again. That means only one thing. The main character looks at the dagger in Altir's belt, after which he strikes him down. The lady immediately breaks free from his grip and realizes the dagger has fallen. The girl immediately grabs it, then takes it out of its sheath and cuts her dress to make it easier to escape. Then the main character runs away as fast as she can. The man screams for them to grab her immediately and not let her escape, because what is she doing? The lady remembers Gidget's words that she can escape danger without getting hurt, and this pleases him. A little while later, the lady is still running away, but at that moment, someone screams that she is there and orders to seize the victim. The girl wonders what to do, as it's impossible to hide from the priests who were born and raised in this forest, and yet it's so strange, because this place seems familiar to her. But at that very moment, the main character trips over a root and falls. Lady looks at her injured ankle and then tries to crawl. However, one of the priests cries out that it doesn't matter if they cripple her, but she is needed alive. Just when the lady thinks she's finished, someone appears next to her and reflects the magic. It turns out to be Gidget. The lady addresses him, and the guy cries out whether it was her turn today. He also wonders why the priests are chasing her, and if she might have escaped from Altir during the ritual. The girl realizes that Mr. Gidget knew that they would be sacrificed alive at the festival, and now she understands. Master Gidget once told her she wouldn't have to suffer for long, and that she should simply be patient for a while. It turns out that all his kindness was merely to allow the little slave a brief, sweet dream before falling into eternal slumber. The girl says that she ran away before Altir could use her body, and he was unable to catch her because he was unwell. At that moment, someone else runs up to Gidget and asks what he's doing, then tells him to hand over the fugitive, because if he does as she says, she won't tell the keeper about him. But the boy simply asks if it's true that Altir let the victim escape. But the woman replies that the ritual offering hasn't even begun yet, so they just need to catch her and take her back. But Gidget asks if they know what it means for the forest keeper to fail the ritual and sacrifice. Yada screams in shock at Gidget and orders him to shut up using his power. The guy repels the attack and claims that he should have been put into eternal sleep earlier so that he would keep quiet. He then delivers his blow, which hits everyone. Gidget turns to Renye and tells her to run and leave the forest right now. The girl turns to Mr. Gidget and asks what about him, since he harmed the priestesses. The guy screams that she found time to think about this, and that the girl should not worry about him, but get out of the forest immediately. If she stayed, she would be sacrificed for a blessing, and the faithful, like monsters, would chase her until they tore her apart alive. There would be no other chance, and he would try to stop them, but he couldn't hold out for long, so let the lady go. The main character asks where she should go then. The guy notices the Dien Revo brand on the lady's chest and asks if Altir had actually managed to place it on her altar. The girl replies yes and asks what kind of brand it is. The guy scolds her and insists that it won't be easy to escape. This brand prevents the victim from leaving the Golden Forest, and if they cross the forest's border, the arc will be activated. The brand will burn away the flesh and reach the heart within 3 days. The main character says that it turns out she will never get out of there, but her interlocutor replies that no. The priests know the entire Golden Forest inside and out, and no matter where she hides, she will still be caught. After which, the guy uses magic and claims that he will not be able to dispel Altir's spell, but he'll be able to delay Ark's activation for another 3 days. Even if she's outside the forest, the brand won't affect her. But the girl will have to return, and until then, he will figure out how to save her life, after which, he also tells the lady to put his cape over her head, because then she will not be recognized from afar. The lady could hide outside the forest for 3 days, and he would find a way out of the situation, no matter what. At the end of that time, she was to meet him there. Lydia approached Mr. Gidget and offered to run away together. Well, the guy claimed that he needed to stop the pursuers and deal with Altir so that it would be safe for her there, so the lady should not worry about him. The main character turns to Mr. Gidget and asks him to forgive her, because she is so sorry. The guy tells her to forgive him, because he shouldn't have bought it. And every time he looked at the lady, the main character interrupts him and claims that if she manages to survive today, she will definitely thank him and dedicate her entire life to him until the end of her days. Gidget thanked the lady and claimed that he would gladly accept the promise, but she would need to return safe and sound to fulfill it. The girl claimed that she would definitely be there in 3 days, after which the guy pulled her closer and wished that the great warrior Qatar and the divine Armanu would protect her, and that she would return alive. The main character wonders if Mr. Gidget was really like this, and if she's ever seen him in such a state, those dazzling, cold blue eyes. And inside him, a thick red heat is clearly felt. The girl wonders if Mr. Gidget has been hiding this until now. Such a frantic and all-consuming passion, after which he releases the lady. A short time later, he approaches Yeda and asks for forgiveness, and also claims that her skill with Arc is one of the best in the Golden Forest. With such abilities, she could even challenge Altair, but she became his supporter, whom he used, and this is what happened. Did she really think that if she was so devoted to him, he'd even notice her? The lady screams at him to shut up, because the guy is trying to use the poor girl for his own ends, but her interlocutor asks what that has to do with it. The lady asks what he is talking about, and the guy claims that it doesn't matter what he thinks or does about her, but it doesn't concern Yadu. Wouldn't it be better for her to worry about herself rather than the girl? Right now, the ritual offering is most important to the Golden Forest, and she knows it. A little while later, the guy throws the body in front of Altair and says that he caught the escaped victim. She resisted desperately, so he had to resort to force, but he thought it was better this way than letting her slip away again. Looking at this body, Altair realized that Gidget was quite the impudent fellow. He dared to deceive him by switching bodies. But the man thinks that it is important to complete the ritual offering now, after which he states that he appreciates Gidget's efforts, so let him hand over the sacrifice, and he will continue the ritual. However, the guy says that before handing it over to them, he would like to clarify something, because how can someone who failed the wedding ceremony and missed the sacrifice become a match for Arman? The man screams, asking what he is talking about, and his interlocutor says how interesting it is, after which he reaches out his hand to the branch. And he suggests asking Arman about this. Altair cries out to Gidget and also grabs a branch. Pointing it at the guy, he screams, wondering if he really set this all up. The main character at this time heads off on a horse and realizes that it was none other than Mr. Gidget. She can accept this because she loves Mr. Gidget. But at that very moment, someone shouts at the lady to stop. At this time, Gidget is fighting with Altair. The guy understands that only Arman can choose Altira, and to confirm this, the priest who challenges Altair cannot use weapons or arc, but fight only with a branch, a tree that is called the Finger of Arman. The man at this time swings a branch near Gidget's neck, after which he pushes him away so that the guy flies away. His interlocutor, with a hop, says what an impudent scoundrel the young man is, after which he swings a branch and is about to finish him off. But at that very moment, the boy plunges a branch into Altair's chest. Everyone watches this in shock, after which Altair falls down and is about to say something else. Gidget leans over to him and, moving the branch inside him, claims that he thought so, that it was N's silent spell. The priests who had previously challenged him to a duel hadn't noticed him, and yet he was so amused to hear about Arman's choice. After this, everyone cried out that a new keeper had appeared, and Arman pointed her finger at him. The protagonist turns to the person who called her and sees that it is Ms. Mine. The woman, covered in red liquid, addresses Rainier and claims that she has something to tell her. The woman claims she saw him use his arc on her brand, but at that moment she collapses. The woman, with her last strength, rises from the floor and insists it wasn't Altair's arc. The victim's body is Armanu's, and Altair won't be able to use the arc on him. He simply branded the victim of the forest, and the one who placed the shackles of arc on her was Gidget. The woman also asks what Gidget told her. The protagonist replies that Mr. Altair cast a curse that would burn her heart if she left the forest, and Mr. Gidget's spell delayed its effect until 3 p.m., and that in the meantime, she should hide and then return. But her interlocutor only smirks and says that as soon as the chance arose, the guy bound her with arc. The main character says that Mr. Gidget did this for her, but her interlocutor claims that there is no such spell that could affect someone else's arc. This is the true essence of Gidget, for he is as wise as a black dragon, and as cunning as a serpent. He is a master of disguise and lies. The girl asks what Ms. Mine is talking about, because Mr. Gidget is not like that. But the woman cries out, "What a foolish lady! He used the so-called fire arc on her, which will bring death in 3 days. And a man of dirt believed an ardent fundamentalist who despises dirty people. So what an idiot she is." The girl wants to object, but her interlocutor wonders if the lady really thinks that it is enough to simply master the arc to achieve a strong position in Altair. Gidget's true power lies in his ability to plot and subtly manipulate those around him. He can dominate and use someone, and to do so, he will hide his disgust and smile sweetly. Surely that was the case with her. He entrusted them with looking after the slaves, saying he didn't want to associate with such vile people. The girl thought that Master Gidget couldn't possibly have done such a thing to her and Lady Mine. But at that very moment, the girl begins to wonder at what point the gentleman's behavior began to change, and why his attitude toward the people he hated suddenly changed. The lady then turned to Mrs. Mine and asked how she knew. That it was a fiery arc. Her companion only laughed, then insisted it was because she was wearing the same arc. Altair Kiros had used it on her long ago. Guardians typically brand and cast a fiery arc on their closest allies to prevent them from betraying or defecting. Gidget, eager to take Altair's place, knew of such an effective method. The main character thinks she simply can't believe it. She's just a filthy person. But Lady Mine is a noble Elijah. Even for Altair, forcing the priests to do such a thing is too much. The protagonist turns to Lady Mine and asks why she agreed to this. The woman replies that they love Kiros and believe in him. They want the Golden Forest to flourish under the wise leadership of a realist, not become a toy in the hands of mindless fundamentalists. They felt sorry for the lonely and doubtful Altair, but he could not accept and trust their love and devotion. That's why they gave up everything for him, even themselves. The protagonist says that it follows that she must return to the Golden Forest in 3 days and live there until her death. Her interlocutor says it's up to her to decide, but as someone who suffered the same curse, she says this: they sincerely loved and protected Kiros, but he, in turn, having become Altair, he didn't trust them and therefore couldn't escape the terrible loneliness. After all, they were all priests with excellent skills for entering eternal sleep and could take his place at any moment. The main character understands that this is true, because the position of the guardian of the forest brings him terrible and hopeless loneliness, but she does not understand why then Mr. Gidget cast an arc on her. The girl asks Mine about this and claims there's no reason for it, since she's a slave, not a priestess, but her interlocutor asks if she promised him anything. The protagonist realizes she was saying that if she managed to survive today, she would definitely thank him and dedicate her entire life to him. The girl claims she swore to protect him with her life, and in gratitude, serve him until the very end. Now the girl just doesn't exist, and claims that the lady trapped herself, just like them. Gidget was well aware of the loneliness and mistrust that were destroying the Altairs, and so, to protect himself, he chose not a priest, but a man of filth, someone who would love him, but could not claim Altair's place. The main character says that Mr. Gidget wouldn't do that to her. The woman then suggests that the lady check her breasts later, as his arc is different from Altair's and has 2 colors, red and brown, although the girl still won't believe it. But Gidget, who placed a filthy man next to him, she didn't think she'd live to see it, after which, the girl falls to the floor. The main character, in shock, turns to Ms. Mine and screams out what she should do now, and where to go. The woman replies that there are 2 ways to escape the fiery arc's influence. She can either hide in the Golden Forest for the rest of her days, or cross the river Naru, which flows near Ninurgle's castle, into the land of beasts, where the savages dwell. Let her flee north, for the Elios spells are powerless there. On horseback, she could get there in 3 days. The girl realizes she's so confused, she's about to go crazy. Her instincts scream out a truth her mind refuses to accept. Now she wonders if she really should stay in the north forever. Her interlocutor claims that it would be better if the one who bound her with Arkham freed her from him, and the girl would like to believe that it was Kiros. But she and Yada felt sorry for the girls, so they tried to take good care of them until they fell into eternal sleep. But at the same time, they didn't want to become attached to them, lest even the slightest warmth they received from them become a regret. It was very difficult for them to send the lady to the ceremony, but she is so glad that the girl was able to survive. The woman then lists all the gods and says that she wants them to protect the girl from the hands of the fallen Qatar and the greedy Armand. May the girl never return to the Golden Forest, and may her life be peaceful. While the main character drove her horse day and night, she wondered if she was doing the right thing. Maybe she should come back right now, because maybe Mr. Gidget did this because he likes her so much. And he did this because he was afraid of losing her and wanted to meet her again. But at that very moment, the girl felt a sharp pain, and when she looked at the seal, then she saw that there really were 2 colors on her. When she saw with her own eyes the color of the brand that made her writhe in pain, her mind cleared. She doesn't know if her boyfriend loves her, and she probably felt the same strange feeling in her heart as he did. But if he subjected her body to such torture to force her to come back, then it doesn't feel like love. If she had to return to him just to end her suffering, then that wasn't love either. The realization was painful, The girl walked to the salt mountain, crying the whole time. Perhaps it was because of the burning sensation in her chest, or because she understood what had happened. The lady prayed that the tears streaming down her cheeks would wash away her feelings for him completely. And so the story told earlier came to pass. Now Gidget is hugging the lady. The main character realizes that she has always wondered what emotions she would experience when meeting Mr. Gidget. Will she admire his beauty again, or hate him for what he did to her? But now, as the lady stands before him, she feels nothing. The man claims that the lady is alive and thanks her, also claiming that this is enough. He also thanks the goddess for this. The main character wonders how he can be like this after all this. The lady also asks Mr. Gidget if he wants to confess something, as he was not honest with her 3 years ago. The girl understands that she is not going to accuse him of buying her for sacrifice, because that was his order. But it was a completely different matter when he tricked her into swearing allegiance and cast a curse that made her an outcast. Her interlocutor claims that he can now say this and asserts that he loves Rainier. Well, the main character just starts laughing at this and then pushes him away completely. The girl asks why he's saying this and why only now. Was it really so difficult for a noble Elios to open up to a man of filth back then? So it took him 3 years to get the courage to confess. The guy keeps saying 3 years and insists that's true. This makes the main character angry, but then she decides to calm down. The lady turns to Lord Gidget and claims that it was he who placed the fiery arc on the slave's brand that Altir Kiros had placed that day. The guy, shocked, asks who she heard it from, but then claims it was him. He did it out of greed, not wanting to lose her, but later he deeply regretted this terrible act. He was going to free the lady after she returned at 1500, and the main character wonders if he was really going to free her if she came to him then. Could she really get rid of this painful curse right now? But when the girl looks at the guy, she understands that, most likely, nothing would have changed even if she had returned by the agreed date. At that time, Mr. Gidget was under house arrest for 2 years, and in that situation, he would have been unable to hide or protect anyone, nor would he have been able to track down and capture the fugitive. At that time, he wasn't sure that she would voluntarily stay with him without Ark's influence, since Mr. Gidget wasn't that naive. The main character claims that he wouldn't do that, but her interlocutor asks how he can regain her trust. The girl wonders if he is really talking about returning trust, and if Gidget really loves her and expects from her something other than slavish submission. Then the main character tells him to apologize for deceiving her and putting the curse on her, and to free her from it. The man claims he regrets it, but he can't get rid of Ark. The protagonist furiously asks why. The girl wonders if she really needs to hide in the forest all her life, as if she were some kind of bug. She doesn't want to return to the northern country either, after which, the girl cries out that he regrets what he did and said he intended to free her 3 years ago. The lady cries out with a request to remove the curse, because she no longer wants to live like a worm. The guy says he's sorry, but that's impossible now. The girl said she'd come see him in 3 days, but then disappeared for 3 years. Therefore, she has no more faith. The lady then falls to her knees and cries out, begging him to have mercy. Now she'll fulfill all her promises, so she begs him to do so. She was afraid to return there, but once she's free of Ark's influence, who would willingly keep their word? And she will serve him until he himself allows her to leave. She swears by the 7 great gods and promises this, so she asks for the curse to be lifted. The guy claims that he assumed that she had been suffering all this time because of Ark. He says he's terribly sorry and doesn't even know how to calm her down. Lady can get angry, scold him, and beat him until she feels better. But right now, he can't rid her of Ark. The girl asks if she must live her entire life with this curse. She cries out that it's not necessary, as she's already had enough of the goddess Inanna's blessing, so the lady asks to be freed. The guy claims he never said he'd never take off the ark. He'll do it later and will also let the lady go in due time, after which he promises to do so. The main character asks when, and her interlocutor replies that as soon as he restores the glory of the Ilios and ascends to heaven. But at that very moment, the main character slaps him in the face. The girl says that thank you very much, and he values the dirty slave so much that he trained for 3 whole years to confess his love, and she's beside herself with happiness.